perfect, nothing to rearrange. Sometimes you just get a feeling like you need some kind of change. No matter what odds are this time, nothing's gonna stand in my way. This flame in my heart, like a long lost friend, gives every dark street a light at the end. Standing tall on the wings of my dream, rise and fall on the wings of my dream. Through the rain and thunder, the wind and haze, I'm bound for better days. It's my life, my dream, and nothing's gonna stop me now.
Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude.
And Justin.
We are back talking about The Leftovers, episode 302. Don't be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous. Now, learning this title, I'm immediately tasked to think who in this episode was being ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Is it a line? Does someone say it? I don't actually remember.
I didn't catch it.
Specifically.
It's the line. But I feel like everyone was being ridiculous in this episode.
There was so much ridiculous in this episode, which I guess, yeah, makes it a logical choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who was the most ridiculous in this episode?
What a great question. Sorry, I made it seem like we had a list of questions to ask, and I don't know, and we already talked about this. But I was just surprised. I'm like, that's great. Let's speculate on this because it's such the show. Everybody's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, probably Nora. I think Nora takes the cake because she was ridiculous about more, like a bigger number of things.
Yeah. Quantity.
Quantity. Yeah.
But I think in terms of quality, I have to give a nod to the Gang of Four in Australia. I mean, what they were doing was pretty ridiculous.
Well, see, it doesn't have context. Can you be ridiculous without context? I mean,
well,
I guess
out of context, it seems ridiculous. Perhaps
yes.
Once we understand more, it won't be ridiculous.
Well, listen. The fact that obviously wasn't the Kevin they were looking for, then it was ridiculous what they were doing to that particular guy. Yeah. For sure.
Well, this is the idea. I mean, I guess we don't fully understand it, but I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't understand what show I'm watching.
Do we want to start with the end and go backwards?
That's a weird thing to do, but it is like, I mean, so it's kind of like the first episode where, the episode runs and then at the end we get this complete out of context thing. Also in Australia, I'm going to say also, this one was definitively in Australia because did you see a fucking kangaroo? I mean, that's how you know you're in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
If everything else didn't tell you, the kangaroo is and they even replay the deer thing from season 1 with the kangaroo getting hit by the car, and then he gets out and shoots the kangaroo. Which
it makes it seem like there's a regional version of The Leftovers all across the planet just happening.
Yeah.
There's in New Zealand they hit a
kiwi.
A kiwi or platypus or whatever.
That one's gonna be ridiculous. When that kiwi comes in to wreck the kitchen. I think it's just not gonna work as well.
It's gonna be stranger. It'll be weirder.
It's pecking away at the bottom of the cabinet.
Who made all these very small, indiscernible scratches on the lower inch of the cabinetry?
This is the mystery I must solve.
It's a different show down there, all right? It's a different show. But listen, all of the outdoor scenes are breathtaking because
you're right?
New Zealand is beautiful. So
You can't beat the
yeah,
scenery. I mean,
can't beat it.
it's yeah. So
If you
there. I
wanted
mean,
to say film a huge movie franchise there,
yeah,
particularly one that takes place in a fantasy land,
yeah.
it's got everything you need.
It's basically a fantasy land.
It's basically it is a fantasy land. New Zealand doesn't exist. I dare you to prove it exists. Have you seen it? Have you been there?
So,
All right. So back to the leftovers.
so do you really want to talk about? I mean, I guess it's the kind of thing where because it doesn't have any clear connection
Yeah.
with anything else in the episode, we can kind of talk about it
Let's
whenever.
talk about it because we were playing a game of what's the most ridiculous, and I think you're right in terms of story wise. This is a pretty ridiculous little element here.
Yeah.
And like I'm saying, like I mentioned off podcast, I think we need to pay attention to the end of episodes of this season
Clearly.
and see if they are flash forwards or any kind of sort of tangential storyline that's happening. Looks like and I'm thinking that montage at the end of the that little transition with the bird at the end of the first episode,
Yeah.
and then going to Nora, very old, was seeing this second part of this whole storyline. It seems like that was a good way to tell the audience that, hey, this is a flash forward. We're taking this, whatever you see in this section of the episodes, if they keep doing it, is going to be in this like future timeline. Because if we had just seen this last part in episode 2, it's unnecessary clear it's in the future.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, I'm not even 100% sure that it is. Like, I think it's reasonable to say that it is, but I guess the difference between this and the last one is that in the last one we saw Nora, and
Mhm.
she was obviously older. In this one, the only character that we actually know that we see is Kevin's dad, and I mean he's already old, and he doesn't look obviously older than the last time we saw him, I would say.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like it definitely could be a flash forward. That seems pretty reasonable, but it doesn't seem like, I guess, like, Occam's razor, like it should be that these things are related. It would be weird to have a flash forward and then like in the next episode you do like a present time story in
Mhm.
Australia. Like, it's just kind of bizarre. It seems like it should be consistent. But I agree. I guess my main point is I agree that like it's not clear from the story itself like when it's taking place.
Mhm.
So I mean, basically what happens is there's this gang. It's hard to describe.
I think
this.
I'm sorry, they're on horses. I think you mean posse.
Posse. You're right. When they're on horses, it's called a posse. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a Australian female posse, and we meet this sheriff, police chief, I guess, and they come to him. They find out his name is Kevin, and so they knock him out, kidnap him. Take him to a pond or something, bog, I don't know, with a seesaw attached for convenient drowning purposes. I don't know
And
what the
for
fuck's
fun.
going on there, and for fun. Right, that's the other purpose. Good call.
Mhm.
So they tie him to it, they drown him, and apparently he dies. Because he's not our Kevin. I think we can all be sure of that.
Don't be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous. Exactly. And then at the end, Kevin's dad comes out. I guess he just happened to be there. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why he was there. But anyway, he comes outside and like, what are you doing? What are you ladies up to? So that's the end of the episode. That's basically the last segment.
Which you think he could tell them who Kevin is.
Fucking
so
A.
that's one of the biggest, interesting, unanswered things that brought up by that half of a second, connection reveal thing of Kevin's dad there, because it's just like, wow. I mean, because that's the ironic part, right? It's not just a reveal that it's a surprise that it's that character, but like they're looking for this guy's son. Wow. Can you
Yeah.
imagine the coincidence that they're doing this thing and they seem to know the person they're looking for is father, but so it's weird that they don't know who Kevin is, but they know his dad.
I mean, it's even slightly more ridiculous than that. His name's Kevin too, and he used to be the police chief.
That's right. That's right. I forgot his name was Kevin. Yeah, Kevin's
He's
a
Kevin
junior.
Senior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like when I originally saw it, I assumed that he didn't know them and that they just happened to be in his backyard or something. Like, but I don't really know what we're supposed to think because, like, I agree. I don't understand where did they get this idea from. I mean, we all saw the last episode. We know there's this book. We know there's this idea of Kevin not being able to die. It's like they have these vague details: his name, his occupation.
Much like Jesus.
But they don't know that, for example, he's not fucking Australian. Like you can just stop right there. Is he Australian? It's not him.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what they're doing, they seem to be testing him, right? Obviously, like if it doesn't die, then it is the Kevin that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's like a witch test. It's like this shitty, if you drown, then you're not the real Kevin. So so we shouldn't have drowned you.
Yeah. So, but that's what's great is that when you're wrong, you're like really wrong, and it's too late. It's too late to take it back.
Yeah. But I mean, it raises so many questions. Like, what's the goal? Like, what if it is Kevin? Then what? I mean, you know what I mean? What are they trying to do? What do they want him for?
Yeah, maybe I just kind of looked at that last scene again. Yeah, maybe he doesn't know who they are.
It seemed to me like he just like came outside, like, who are you?
They're outside making a lot of noise, shouting Kevin. So that would get his attention.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So that's
but
interesting.
It wasn't a prearranged meeting, or he didn't tell them to come there or something. It didn't seem that way.
Yeah, it didn't seem that way. But I assume they need him for something. But yeah, that'll probably be some new story element that they add. Something with the next departure or whatever happens on this anniversary.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the connection being at the end of the first episode. They ask about Kevin, and Nora's like, I don't know any Kevin. And in this episode, they're looking for a Kevin, but it's the wrong Kevin.
Right.
So maybe at the end of the next episode, we'll actually see Kevin. What is that the right variation?
It could be. I guess having no idea where the story's going, it's hard to know what the next step might be.
Yeah.
I feel like they could also wait to show Kevin until, although I guess by the end of this episode, it does look like Kevin is heading to Australia. So, maybe they're going to do like a pseudo Memento thing where the storyline kind of progresses in the present and then the flash forwards go ahead and then like eventually by the time we see Kevin in the flash forwards, we understand how he got there from the present, something like that. Like I could see it going along those lines.
And it could be that the end of the first episode could be where we get to at the very furthest in the future, until they catch up to it, and that this in the second episode is closer.
Forward.
Yeah, it's closer to the present.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
But the reason I thought it was at least somewhat in the future was because they read Kevin's book, and it made me think that. And it made me think that, well, if there's some kind of culture, or obviously, who knows how big of a group this is that believes in Kevin or whatever, or has read the book. But I thought, well, if there's enough people to read the book, then maybe this is far enough in the future that 10 years or 20 years or something where it's become more widely known or something.
Yeah. It's pretty logical.
Maybe I mean, if I just had to guess, I think maybe Kevin disappears. I think it's something with this anniversary is triggering what we're seeing in these little tags at the end of the episodes.
That seems pretty likely too. Yeah.
So maybe Kevin. I don't know. I feel like maybe he's gonna do something.
A bold prediction.
I'm a professional podcaster, and my prediction is the character will do something.
And you're gonna be so proud when you're right.
Oh, I can't wait. I've been waiting to be right for so long. So that's why I made my prediction as general as possible.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say that Kevin's gonna do nothing. I mean,
What?
it's gonna
And
be
a
really
stunning
impressive.
upset out of left field. All right. Well, I guess my point was I kind of want to assume that he disappears or something, or he stops it somehow, or he goes to where everybody else went and comes back or something. Something that makes him sort of unique in this situation. So a quick aside, because I want to make a comment about supernatural stuff on the show.
Sure.
But I believe it's called the Leftovers podcast. I believe it's called what's it called?
The Living Reminders.
I believe it's called The Living Reminders. Thanks for reminding me. And again, it seems like a bit we worked out before. That's how bad our bits are, is that they seem like pre-rehearsed bad bits. That's how bad they are. Because we rehearsed it, but that's the best we came up with.
Yeah.
It wasn't that great. I promise you, folks, this is all off the cuff. We put no time and energy into this podcast. If you want a podcast where we actually care, go to the Lost Lowdown. That's what we're about. Oh, I kid. Anyway, my point was, in the Living Reminders podcast, they have an episode where they interview Damon Lindelof and Tom Perrotta.
Mm-hmm.
And Damon made a very big, interesting comment about the supernatural stuff in the show. And his comment was that there has only been one supernatural event on the show, and that was the departure. That says a lot.
What?
Yes. So that means all the hotel stuff, all that other stuff is in his mind. Now he did further elaborate, and he said something about another word he said that I thought was interesting was he said events were incredible, but not supernatural. So I thought that was an interesting distinction. So you can't believe it, but it's within the realms of reality,
I mean, I almost want to say, yeah, like, why can't the sudden departure be that too? I mean, you know what I mean?
Because, and he says this in the podcast, and we talked about this in our last podcast, but he actually says this to confirm it, that the whole kind of point of the show is what happens to these people after a real provable supernatural event has happened. How does that, open things up to other people claiming to be supernatural or other events that might be supernatural? How does that affect whether or not you think they're supernatural? Because this verifiable thing actually happened. We talked about that last podcast. And so then he goes straight into the example of, oh Jesus, why am I forgetting his name? The hugging guy.
Wayne.
Wayne? Yeah.
Wayne, yeah.
And so he gave the Wayne example of if a guy came and said he could, hug your pain away or whatever, maybe you think he could do it. The departure happened, So
Right.
I thought that was really interesting that he said that. Now this was from this podcast was recorded before season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily preclude any supernatural things in season 3,
Right.
But
after season 2.
But yeah, definitely including seasons 1 and 2. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Because I feel like season 2, raised the stakes on the supernatural occurrences. I agree that it can still be read ambiguously, but it is. I mean, there's a lot there that really does, and it's like he's selling it. I mean, I guess that's the thing. That's the thing about Damon Lindelof.
Yeah.
Like he stands back and says, none of that was supernatural. but I think he knows that he's selling it to a
Yeah.
certain extent
Oh, yeah.
like it is.
It's definitely a podcast worth listening to because he did touch on that idea. Yeah, I forgot exactly what he said, but he did touch on that idea of the audience's expectations,
Yeah.
and the whole. Another thing he said was, God, I'm forgetting exactly how he phrased it, but he was saying that the point of the whole show was, people, God, what did he say? But basically, it was about meaning, how people interpret things, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's clearly, I mean, that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like with the Wayne thing, to me, like that's so much more. I mean, to me, like the Wayne thing was right there in the show in terms of like,
Yeah.
sure they presented him in a quasi mystical way, but I feel like the show even made it clear to a certain extent that this might be bullshit, and they even had him say it at the end.
Well,
Um,
they're going to present both sides of the argument for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess with the hotel, at least with Patty, they had that whole thing with Lori saying, it's all in your minds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're just having a psychotic break, and uh, you know. It was great. It was great. I actually just rewatched that episode. She's like, Patty's not here because she knows that she is in like what's in your mind. Knows that if she appears, then I will ask for information that I know about her that you
Yeah, I
don't
remember that.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and she won't be able to answer it. And then he's like, well, she told me stuff about her husband and blah blah blah. And she's like, yeah, I told you about him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh fuck, it's a killer because that stuff is all very convincing,
Mm-hmm.
but it is also kind of like the phone where it's like it lulls you into a false sense of like, well, it must be Patty. I mean, she's got all these details.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I guess we talked about in our first Leftovers podcast. The whole idea of if one super, super, super improbable thing happens, does that change the odds that it could happen again? And I guess a similar question is, does that
Right.
increase the odds that other improbable things could happen?
Right.
It's a weird spin-off, right? It's a weird, like, tangential effect that could be possible, like who
Yeah.
knows if that's a reasonable idea or not. Well, this one crazy thing happened, that, that's a sign that the universe is off kilter or whatever,
Right.
therefore other crazy things happen. But yeah, but yeah, I think he really loves walking that line as fine as possible between either side of the argument, presenting believable evidence on both sides.
Yeah.
But what's weird is the weird thing I find is that the context is generally, well, of course, supernatural things don't happen. I feel like even though he does all that work to walk those lines, most of the time the answer is a reasonable explanation.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
supernatural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a weird, so it's because, it's just weird. Like, because it's not like it's 50-50. Well, half the time it is supernatural, and half the
Right.
time it's not. So then you never really know which one it's going to be.
Right.
It's kind of like, no, you really should hedge your bets that it's not supernatural, because most of the time it isn't.
Right.
So it's interesting to like spend all that time creating this, equally possible dual outcomes or whatever. But it's kind of like, nah, it's really just a farce because it's this other thing.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the weird thing about because I feel like he keeps pulling you in with that stuff, even though, over and over again, you get this reinforcement of like, don't expect that the answer is going to be the craziest thing automatically. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly with the disappearance, I mean, that had a very concrete, reasonable explanation.
Talking about Evie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you know, that he wanted us to think, obviously, that maybe they departed,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously that's not what happened. And I do feel like most things on the show are like that, but it's like we spent a whole episode in the hotel, and he went back to the fucking hotel. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I agree that it doesn't have to exist, but it's one of those things
That's
where.
Well, listen, whether or not so I know what you mean, but let's be clear, like existing in what context, right? Like, so it exists in some sense, but the question is really, is it in Kevin's head or not?
To the extent that it seems to affect uh, not just Kevin but other characters. And of course, you know, we don't have another confirmed character who came back from there. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's, you know, I mean, the one thing would be interesting is if Mary remembers it, since she happened to be there. That might be a conversation. If she ever
Mm-hmm.
wants to talk about that, though she's leaving, so perhaps that's never going to happen. Anyway, you know, because
Yeah, the
mostly
writers are like, let's get her out of town before she has a chance to talk to Kevin.
yeah, I know, because it's like most of the people there were dead, so they're not gonna, you know, get to. I mean, I just watched a thing where Virgil like shoots himself, you know, so that he can be Kevin's guide, and that's what he does in the hotel. But he didn't tell Kevin
but
that.
but
He told Kevin that he was going to stand by with this epinephrine shot and wait, you know, for the right moment to like wake him up. But that's not what he was gonna. That's not what he actually did. You know, so
mhm.
it's like to me that really sells the idea that this isn't just in Kevin's mind.
But
You
but
know?
but but you know, devil's advocate, but wouldn't Kevin's psyche conjure him up if they needed a guide, right? I mean, if he needed a
Yeah,
guide,
I
who would
know, I
he,
know.
like but I agree that is a very good point, and it's good writing, because it's very specific to like make sure that's not a easy connection you can make to like prove it either way.
Right.
Uh, um,
And to me, the hotel is like, that it's different from Wayne.
you
Like,
know what? You know what I feel like the hotel is for you? I feel like it's um it's uh it's Eugene's vaccine.
oh God,
I
oh
kind of feel
God.
like you would rather the hotel be real than to be like, no, it's not real. It's in Kevin's head.
Yeah, I guess I agree that I. The thing is, it's I. What am I trying to say?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I think the one thing we can all agree on is whether it's real or not. It had a huge effect on Kevin.
Yep. Yep.
Now,
Yep.
I think
So does Wayne.
I think well, sure, absolutely, absolutely. But I think the reason why I guess because there's so many other characters connected to the hotel, I guess I want the hotel to affect other characters too. That's really why I want it to be real. Not so much that
Hmm.
I need there to be a crazy afterlife hotel, but just that like it has a little more scope in the story if it's not just about Kevin. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I was actually going to say that it'd be interesting if Kevin asked Mary about a hotel or something, and she says like when she was in a coma, she was at a hotel. Like I have some
Yeah.
vague memory about being in a hotel or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That'd be an interesting connection.
Yeah, I feel like that should come up because it's a weird. I mean, you know, I guess we're supposed to believe he didn't really talk about it because I think in that scene where he confronts Matt about the book, I think he says to Michael, "You told him about the hotel." You know, I guess the insinuation is that he didn't tell anyone else about the hotel, and so maybe she doesn't even know that
Hmm.
he had the same you know crazy experience.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like now that it's out in the open, yeah, like I don't know, like at least ask the question. I mean, I'd just be curious what she would say.
Another thing to add to this conversation about the realness of the hotel. So in this podcast interview, Damon mentions he actually talks about the Evie situation, the disappearance. Which was really interesting because he just kind of sets up like, listen, there's like three options that could have happened. They were either abducted, they ran away, or they were departed.
Yeah.
And he talks about like basically, a couple of those things in the episode that are supposed to be hints, that, and the way he phrased it was great because to me, like those, them riding in the car in silence and then like running through the woods naked, and then there's like another thing.
I don't get that one, by the way.
But here's how he phrased the answer, which I thought covers it. But I wouldn't have said this. I would have wanted to be more specific. So it wasn't like those were signs that they were going to run away and join the guilty remnant. But he said those were signs that all was not well in the state of Denmark. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if I saw that and go, oh, okay, this is telling me that their home life isn't good, something's off with these girls.
Yeah.
Then when they disappear, you might be more likely to say, oh, well, okay, maybe they ran away because all wasn't well. And that's not how I took them either,
Yeah, I mean, the silence definitely screams guilty remnant. Running naked through the woods is like, I can't imagine the guilty remnant doing that. It's a weird thing. I don't understand why they did that.
You know why I think they did it? I just figured it out.
Wow. All right then. Damn.
When you have sometimes things align and it's just the right context. Most of the time I have a good epiphany. It's because you're talking.
Oh, good.
It's because like you said something in a way and I get a chance to think and then I come up with an idea. Anyway, my idea is, I don't know if it's right or not, but I was just thinking, well, if the guilty remnants, or I should say this, when they're in the car in silence, if that's an obvious sort of guilty remnant visual depiction.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of kind of duality, and I was thinking of extremes. So what is the opposite extreme of sitting in silence in a car, running naked in the woods? I think is pretty close. I think that's pretty close.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So the idea that these girls are kind of lashing out against their environment in these kind of two extreme ways. That's the best explanation I can come up with.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's just like, to me, running naked in the woods, I mean, it's weird. It seems weird to me, but it's the kind of thing that I would interpret more as, I don't know, like frivolous, free-spirited. Like, it's not the kind of thing where I think like, oh man, they have problems, Whereas riding in silence in the car does seem like they have problems.
Well, but that's why I'm kind of trying to characterize it as an example of extreme behavior.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because that shows they have a problem. If they don't feel alive unless they run through the woods naked, they have a problem.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the angle.
Yeah. It's weird that they showed that and then like I don't know. I guess that's the explanation, and so that was the point.
But anyway, so he talked about that whole setup, and he was saying because the show started with telling the audience we're not going to explain the departure.
Right.
This is not a show.
We understand, Damon. We got
it. Like he's all the disclaimers he can give. He said because of that, he was saying that, as opposed to he mentioned like I think he said Westworld and Mr. Robot and this other big one that's something just like Westworld. These shows with a mystery I can't think of. But he was saying that unlike those shows where the fans are trying to guess the answers, this show, since it tells you we're not invested in the answers, then you're not really trying to guess them. Therefore, when Evie and the girls disappear, you're not thinking, oh, this, or I should say, he says, you're thinking this might never be answered. So you're not like, that was his kind of explanation of why people really like try to guess it, as fervently as they would on like Lost or something, because they're like, the audience knows, hey, this just might just be unexplained, so I'm not going to invest the time trying to figure it all out, even though there are clues there,
Right.
So the other thing, if I can circle back to the other thing that we were talking about that Damon made a comment about. I wanted to mention that I'm forgetting. What were we talking about before the Evie thing? Something towards the end of season 2. We were
The
just
hotel?
talking about the hotel. Yeah.
Okay.
So, perfect. So, an interesting thing he mentioned related to the hotel was, and he kind of said this off the cuff, was that he basically said that Kevin got rid of Patty once and for all. So that was interesting.
Wow.
Now, that to me says something about the hotel. I don't know what, but it had some realness to it that he could affect this person in his head. Now,
Right.
now, does getting rid of her in this hotel place, is that the same as getting rid of her in his head?
Right. It does seem like it could be read that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like some kind of internal coping mechanism.
Yeah.
A way to deal with and dispose of this
I mean,
harmful
as much as
part of his own psychology.
Yeah, as much as I want the hotel to be real, I think it makes much more sense it's all in Kevin's head. This is a guy where the story starts out that he's going crazy,
Right.
and season 2 should have been an escalation of his issues, so they would make sense for it to go that far. But what's interesting and why the show is so good is that it marries that idea with like the actual weird stuff, like, hey, I died 3 times,
Right.
or almost died 3 times, or almost died once, died 2 times. I think that's the count.
Yeah, that sounds right.
think
That
that's
sounds
the count.
right.
Yeah,
Because he didn't get to die the first time because of the earthquake.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which begs the question, did the earthquake even have to happen? I mean, I guess he would just be at the bottom of the thing.
Yeah, and Virgil mentions that he's like, I told you not to do that. It's not a good method because there's not an easy way to like get out of it. When you're finished. It's sort of like, I was thinking the same thing, like, because Virgil just like shoots himself, and it's like, why didn't he just shoot Kevin? Well, it's kind of like, did the bullet bounce off your head, or did the gun not go off? It's the thing where it's a little more plausible that he can actually wake up after it, is the thing that he does when he dies,
Yeah, and I think there is a bit of again ritualness that is needed there to prime Kevin's mind for what's about to happen.
Right.
But I agree.
But the cause of the earthquake is do they? I guess I'm gonna have to see. I haven't gotten to the end of season 2 yet. The insinuation is that, and I guess Virgil directly says this, is that either someone was trying to help Kevin, or Patty did it to prevent Kevin from
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask.
vanquishing
If Kevin had drowned, like he had, the brick on his leg or whatever, and he couldn't get out, and he's at the bottom of the lake, and he dies. There's no earthquake, and he dies, and then he goes to the hotel, and then he's finished with the hotel, and then he wakes up in the real world again, but then drowns again.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Goes back
Does he
to the
just
hotel
go
again?
through a loop forever? like some
Groundhog
horrible existential groundhog nightmare? Like
Groundhog Nightmare. Oh God.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
It does seem like that could be possible. That would be pretty horrible.
So the problem with Virgil's thing is he gave us two options, right? It's either
Of
someone
course
was
he
helping
did.
him,
And they're both crazy options.
and guess what? There's a third option was that it's neither.
Of course, it's just a natural phenomenon.
but that's how it's like a magic. It's the Lindelof shuffle is like a magic trick. You're telling the audience. You're I guess you should say you're like focusing the audience's attention and say, okay, listen, it's only in left hand or my right hand, but you don't tell them it could be in your assistant's hand or something, know?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. that's all I have to say about that podcast and how it was relating to that little stuff you were talking about.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm not surprised. I mean, it's one of those things where it kind of bursts my bubble, but on the other hand, like I know to expect that. I mean, it's my fault if I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So
It's
I-
like it's like you're a kid and you have a deadbeat dad and he says he's going to take
Yeah.
you someplace fun,
yeah.
but then he doesn't show up. And guess whose fault it is
Yeah.
for expecting him? It's you.
Yeah, it's my
kid.
fault. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like I've gotten to the point where I've accepted that that's just how daddy is, and you
Daddy
know,
Loft.
if exactly. And if I get disappointed, then it's my fault. So I just, I just shouldn't put myself in that position. But the
Yeah.
thing is, like, he keeps raising the stakes of the intrigue.
I
You
know.
know?
First he said it was Disneyland. This time he says it's Disney World.
I know.
mean, yeah.
It's too much. I
Yep.
can't take it.
Well, see,
what's
but the
next?
reason he's doing that is that's the only way he's going to get your attention. If he keeps trying to bait you
Yeah.
with like the same old level of stuff, you're going to know Daddy's a liar. But if he's like, well,
Right.
first class, we'll drive go-karts,
Right.
you're going to want to go.
Right.
And he's still not going to show up.
It's just it's crazy to me to spend that much time on something that, but it's like, I guess it's all about, oh man. This is why it's a thing, because it's such a this is why we have such a long podcast about Lost, and and why we've been brought back into podcasting by this show, because there's something about that technique that's really frustrating and yet like very compelling.
It's because it doesn't resolve these. There's just these like narrative situations that just don't resolve.
Yeah.
And you follow the lines and the threads and you go through the hoops and you don't get to any endpoint of any certainty. So you continue going through the loops again over and over and over and over, and then you're just
Yeah.
like, wait, what is the cabin?
Right.
You
Exactly.
know?
It seems like
and
it's-
I think there's certain kind of brains who enjoy that, and I have to imagine there's a lot of brains that hate that.
Yeah.
That's their
clearly.
least favorite thing is that kind of endless speculation and not quite concrete storytelling.
Yeah. So, what I was gonna say about that final scene, real quick, just as far as like the book, and if they've read the book, I was thinking like that does seem like the biggest clue that it's a flash forward, because we were told that the paper copy that's in Jarden in the present is the only one.
Mhm.
So, unless that's a lie and they scanned it and put it on the internet, or I don't know what else. I mean, I don't know how else anyone in Australia would ever know about it. So,
Well, don't forget they are on their way to Australia, so they could take the book with them.
right, but that's going to be in the future. Just as a reason why it's not literally taking place at the same time
Mhm.
as the events of this episode.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be really close.
It could
to
be
the
a
future.
couple days later, I guess.
Yeah. Or they leave
Weeks.
the book behind after they leave Australia or
Right.
something, or put our detective hats on. Story detective. He's probably gonna tell his dad about the book.
Yeah, most likely.
And his dad will probably be all about it.
Yeah, yeah,
And maybe his dad will steal a copy and proliferate it or something.
yeah,
Maybe something like that.
yeah. That sounds reasonable. And I guess like that goes along with what you were saying about like in this world post departure, and perhaps something even crazier or equally crazy or whatever is going to happen in the 13 days. The anniversary.
Mhm.
It creates this environment where I guess strange cults, magic, religion-ish sort of stuff catches on. But I do wonder, though. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, if the comparison is Jesus, I mean, can you imagine a gang like going around saying
Hmm.
like, "Is your name Jesus? Well, we'll drown you or we'll crucify you or
Well,
something." And if you
yeah,
don't resurrect, then you weren't. That's crazy. What if it
but
is
that's
him?
but that's the thing, right? And I think that's why it's such an interesting thing to depict is that if someone was around who said they were Jesus and they were these sort of confirmed miracle sightings, I think this is exactly what would happen. Somebody would say, "Prove it. Let me prove it," and somebody would say, Leslie thought he had some like real supernatural powers. Um, let's just kidnap him and put him, take him to Vegas or something, put him in a show. Like it could
Mm-hmm.
work for, you know what I mean? Like, unless he like has telekinesis or something and can zap you or whatever. But I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying, if a man came back and seemed to be human but had these supernatural sort of, or couldn't die or whatever,
Yeah.
I think that's very possible. Someone would try to take advantage for good or for ill, you know. And
Well,
and
yeah. I
and
guess
and
that's the question. What are their motives?
yeah,
I think that's not clear.
definitely not clear. Why they're on horses, I think, is an interesting question. They're like cowfolk. I thought it was interesting that they specifically said what the lady she said what her name was, because I was immediately trying to guess who she was of a character we might already know,
Oh
or
yeah.
especially any of those women in the scene. I thought, oh, maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
in the future and this is 30 years later or whatever, 40
Right.
whatever. But she says her name, which is the name we have not heard, and I think.
Right.
And maybe that was the point of that, is to let us know we don't have to try to guess who she is.
Especially after the Nora thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, four older women on horses sounds like the beginning of a joke.
It does. It
But
does.
and even the guy that they got to be Kevin, the Australian cop Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
was a weird guy. Wasn't he
Yeah.
weird?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
weird. Like I mean, not bad. Like I enjoyed the performance or whatever. It just was he was just a weird person. He looked
Yeah.
weird and he acted weird, and I didn't understand why he was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. He reminded me. I mean, the tone of that last part was very strange. It was
Hmm.
like, I don't know what the word is. It was like quasi comical or something, but
Yeah.
it was also very dark. So it was like, I don't know. It made me think of like the Evil Dead or something. Like it
Hmm.
was the other Kevin guy. He was playing it very. I don't know. I yeah. There were a lot of mannerisms and a lot of
Hmm.
strange
Hmm.
facial expressions, and he
He
wasn't
played it
just
like
playing it simply.
he played it like a comic. He played it like I thought he was like in makeup and costume. He
Hmm.
played it like he was playing like a comedic character. I'm trying to find
Yeah,
him in the thing. Maybe because maybe he is. Maybe he is just a comedic actor, and they got him to play this weird tone they wanted.
right.
Trying to find his name on the thing. But anyway, yeah, okay. Glad I'm not the only one who thought it was strange.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I mean, I found the whole sequence strange, but it started off
So,
strange when it was just him.
so you're not gonna believe this. There's two hilarious coincidences that I found who this guy is. So coincidence number one,
Okay,
his name is Damian Garvey.
okay,
So that's
that's
weird.
weird.
And
You
one of the
got the
things
part.
and one of the things he's known for is the TV show Ash versus Evil Dead.
What?
And you just mentioned Evil Dead, so two weird.
Wow,
See, supernatural things do happen. The
wow.
departure is real. We just proved it.
Oh my god, that's crazy! I swear I didn't know that. It was just the thing that came to mind. Wow.
Yeah, it's a weird. It was a weird reference. You're like I don't know, Evil Dead.
I mean, I was trying to come up with that, that combination of like dark, crazy stuff with comedy.
Yeah.
Like that was the tone I was getting. Uh, Maybe they were going for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If they actually got someone from there's an Evil Dead TV series. I didn't even know that
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah. It's
That's
called
news
Ash
to
versus
me.
Evil Dead.
Wow, have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I think what's his name is in it. I think
Bruce Campbell.
yeah, I think he's in it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, otherwise, what are we doing anymore?
Guys, what are we even doing? What are we even doing anymore? Anyway, the fact that this guy's last name is Garvey, I find just really, really interesting. And
Yeah.
he's playing a doppelganger of Kevin Garvey.
Yeah.
They must have had fun with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I find this show fairly difficult to guess when it comes to these kind of big story arcs. And like, what do these women want? It's just like, who knows?
Right.
But then we're gonna find out. And it's gonna be obvious. It's gonna be like,
Right.
oh well, they needed him for this obvious thing you would need Kevin for.
Right. Right. I mean, I would say it's either something straightforward that we could even guess right now, or it's something that depends on knowing information that we don't know, so we couldn't possibly guess.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's one of those things.
All right. What are your top 3 things they could want Kevin for? Your top 3 wild guesses.
Man.
You got a horse in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a horse-based season, clearly. Why would they want Kevin? Well, let's see.
Wait, imagine you are a middle-aged woman on a horse.
Yeah. It's important that you're on a horse.
I'm sure you've thought of that before.
Yeah. It comes up. It's one of those. Everybody imagines that at some point in life.
You know how those power stances. Where you stand and you feel really powerful. I feel like that's your power stance. Is you being a middle when you want to feel empowered. That's your go-to. It's your go-to visual.
Yeah. That seems reasonable. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, this is hard. So the basic thing about Kevin is that he can't die, right?
Yep.
I mean, they haven't indicated that there's anything else about him that is particularly special. So, what could you do with someone who can't die? I guess you could send him into dangerous situations. And he could come back. Like you could play some weird trick. Like if it's some kind of post-apocalyptic world,
you could use him for the best April Fool's joke ever. That's why they want him.
That's not what I was thinking, but yeah, like Weekend at Bernie's or something.
It's March 31st. They need this guy now. They don't have any time to waste. If it's Weekend at Bernie's. I like that Weekend at Bernie's is the go-to reference for having a dead person like pal around with you for a weekend. Nobody else took that mantle in like 30 years. Can you believe it? In a way, no. In a way, yes. Hollywood is so out of ideas that they can't even top that, Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. That's how it is.
I based on what you just said, I have a crazy theory to throw out, okay?
Okay.
So, because I agree. As soon as you said, like, Kevin can't die, then what? Okay, great. Then what do you need? That makes him special. Then they need somebody who can die for something, right? That's going to get somebody killed. They need him because there's no consequence, because he can come back.
Right.
What if they pull a Lost season 6 and what they want? Now, I don't think this really works because I don't think these are the women who would be connected to this necessarily. But what if they have the machine that can zap you to the departed zone, and they want to zap Kevin, so that even though he might die going there, he can come back.
And maybe they can find out what happened.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good theory, actually. That would tie together the other stuff from this episode. It would make it more relevant why they showed that at the end of this episode, because it seems to have no connection. Yeah, that's very interesting and very reasonable. And I'll just point out that playing by Lost rules, in Lost, Widmore had a machine that sent Desmond to the afterlife.
Yep.
So it doesn't seem out of the question that there could be some kind of scientific way to simulate the departure. I mean, that seems like something.
Yeah.
It's not out of bounds for Damon to do that, or to be okay with doing that. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good. Like, I was just thinking like a bank robbery or something, but like that's
our horses aren't fast enough. We need you to do it, Kevin.
That's way better. That's way better.
Yeah, I was just trying to fit in this idea of needing someone who could die with the big idea of the end game of the show, and
Right.
and then this whole idea of that caveat of which I thought was really interesting when they were like, we zap you to the other place. And she was like, no, you're just incinerating those people or radiating those people or whatever.
Yeah.
Which was, I love that she said that because I was not thinking that at all. Like, I was, as soon as she said it, I was like, oh yeah, that is also probably likely.
Right. Yeah.
Like, no, whatever you're seeing of effect is the fact you're bombarding them with radiation,
Right.
But yeah, I mean that would be, as someone who, sort of famously in a very minor way, wanted the island to be a spaceship prison from an alternate dimension. I don't know why that's laughable.
Wait, it was a prison? I forgot it was a prison.
Well, yeah,
Why
because
was it a prison? The Man in Black?
because the Man in Black, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he was an alien prisoner.
He's an alien prisoner. Yep.
Okay.
That's why they can't. Hey! In my defense, that's why he can't be let off the island, because he will infect all the minds of everyone on the planet and destroy the world. Come on! Are we watching the same show?
Wait, wasn't that the truth anyway?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying it fit into things that seem true. So,
okay, gotcha.
On its own, it seems crazy, but it fit the theory, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's why the light doesn't scatter quite right, because it's all a hologram. Like it's not really an island. It's a it's a prison.
Prison spaceship.
All
right.
Prison spaceship from another dimension.
From another dimension.
Which sounds
honestly,
like a 50s B movie.
It's like, why not? Well, yeah, definitely. In a way, it's like, I can't prove that it's not that.
And that's the saddest thing I've ever heard anyone say about Lost. That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Is that you...
Because no one knew, you know what I mean?
You can't even say...
No one knew.
You can't even say it's not a spaceship prison from another dimension.
I mean, it doesn't seem likely, but hey, I mean...
Oh man, that's why it's the best show ever, because you can't even say it's not a spaceship prison from another dimension.
Well...
I feel like
a lot.
we have to ask Carlton and Damon that and really put them on the spot and go, listen, on the record, can you confirm or deny? Can you say it's not a spaceship? And they'll be like, we can't say that. We can't say that.
Yep. That's what they would say. So true.
Oh man,
so ridiculous.
Wow. Okay, so anyway, I think Desmond might be an interesting parallel to Kevin Garvey, actually. Another person who thought he was going crazy because of stuff that was happening to him, and had a special.
Desmond, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Like, had a specialness to him, a uniqueness to his character. in relation to the other characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be interesting to see. I mean, listen, I think if we get any other storylines about this machine thing, this whole scientific approach to going to the other side, I'm gonna really double down on that idea.
Yeah.
If it's just like a one-off thing, and we don't really hear about it, then I'm gonna say, oh, it's just kind of.
I think we have to, because that's why they're going to Australia.
Oh yeah.
That's why Nora's going to Australia at least. So I mean, I think there has to be at least a little bit of follow up on
Yeah,
that.
there does. I guess I was meaning. Yeah, I guess that's what I meant is if we actually see the machine. Yeah. So if we actually see a thing and it's real,
Yeah.
then I think they're like they say a dimension traveling machine in the first act goes off in the third.
I think we're gonna see it now. I think it's that is totally what. Who was that? Chekhov? Yeah.
Yes.
That's what he had in mind.
I just adapted it, but
Yeah.
Um,
I think I think it could go either way. I would say it's possible that it plays a major role in the plot. I think it's also possible that we see it, but it's discarded, just like the Widmore thing was. You know,
Mhm.
I mean,
well, but he actually zapped Desmond, and he actually went somewhere.
yeah. So I mean, but I guess to me, if it was like that, it'll be like Kevin gets zapped in the next episode, and after that they don't mention it again. You know what I mean? Like.
Well,
that's
yeah,
not,
but
like,
they
that's
won't.
not the
No.
end
That's
game.
sure, but that's the in the well, we were talking about this last seed, so that that's the reason that they want to for him to go to the other side, but that doesn't solve the story for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'm just saying, like, I think it might play a huge role in the plot, or it might, play a smaller role, but I do think we'll see it again in some form.
Mm-hmm. Something I was going to say about the zapping. Desmond got zapped. Yeah, I was just thinking about the idea of trying to. That's what I was going to say. This whole scientific thing that they talk about in this episode does actually go back to the Nora being a lens thing, because I think that was the first time we saw like the scientists come in and like try to give some answers, or at least talk about what was happening in some kind of way.
Yeah.
So this kind of like picks up on that. So it'd be interesting if they link those two somehow. If they're like, our research doing this thing, or or if they're like, oh, you're Nora, like we scanned your house and we found a portal, like your house was integral to us finishing this technology or something, because you had such a crazy departure. It'd be interesting if they like link those together.
Yeah. I can see them doing that. I actually realized that structurally, at least like in part, Nora's 3 episodes have all followed somewhat similar lines, of like being presented with like a crazy thing, completely rejecting it initially, but then like on some level like reconsidering, having doubts, and even in some cases going all the way in terms of buying in.
That's actually
going
her.
to see Wayne, and
I think that's actually her default mode, and you see that really clear in this episode. And I think that's in terms of how characters are responding to their stimuli. I think you really see her pattern very, very clearly, and it is to be completely self-assured in her initial reaction, which is to disprove it. Right, disbelieve it, I should say. But, and this is something Damon mentioned on this podcast again. Something interesting about Nora is he mentioned that he was talking about the episode where she throws the rock in the neighbor's window.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and it's actually a very interesting conversation because because that was just a feeling that Damon had that Nora would do. It was great. He was like, it didn't come from like a story angle. It was just like, I think I just see her doing that. And then we'll figure out how to make it work, but that's just what he feels like doing. And Tom Parada was talking about how he didn't really want to go along with that. It didn't make sense to him. And then he tells Damon, he's like, the only way I could see Nora doing that is if later in the episode, Regina King throws a rock back in Nora's window. And Damon was like, yes, exactly. Yes, that's great. Of course, that's perfect. And he says that they basically wrote that episode around those two scenes, like justifying, and not around those two scenes, but just like kind of justifying getting to those moments, basically.
Wow.
But anyway, what he said that was interesting that connects to this episode, I think, is that he mentioned that Nora, the reason she threw the rock was because she was angry that what's her character, Regina King's character's name?
Erica.
I don't know why I don't remember names. I promise I watched the show, guys. Erica, the fact that Erica knew where her kids were, basically, and Nora didn't, right? Nora's kids just departed. So he said that basically she did that because of that frustration, that anger, built up, which is not something I got at all.
She knew where her kids were?
Well, like the idea that because I think at that point Nora thought Evie didn't depart, right? And that's another thing Damon said about Evie's disappearance. I believe he was saying that Nora's the one who said that the kids just ran away.
She did say that. That's true.
Yeah.
I just watched that episode.
Yeah.
I was so confused. I was confused the first time and even more confused the second time when she threw the rock through the window. So I'm glad to get an explanation.
Yeah.
I did not understand it.
So that's what it is. So she basically is like, listen, I'm upset because my kid's departed and your kid just ran away. And so my situation's worse and I'm upset about that. That's basically kind of how he said it.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? It's
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's not what I thought it was.
Not what I thought it was at all. No, me either.
Wow.
So anyway, you see that in this episode where Nora, when she's at her worst, she's vindictive and she's petty. And and I think it comes from the anger that she has when other people are getting something that she doesn't think they deserve.
Yeah.
Or she feels like she's getting shit on and doesn't deserve it, and so you see that in this episode when she's horrible, I mean, she's just, when she gets to that point, she's horrible, but that's like her coping mechanism and that's how she responds to all these things. So it's interesting to like really see the psychology of the character play out in these different events. Like you're saying, like in all her episodes, they follow the same pattern, which I gotta say is evidence of not just good writing, but like good character development. Because I think if you were like, if all of her episodes, they're all over the place. They're not similar in either way. It'd be weird. I think that'd be less interesting. And less realistic, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also true for Mad episodes, and I assume we'll get one along those lines in this season. And I'm expecting it to be along the lines of the first two because his episodes are ridiculous.
Yep.
Like roller coaster rides going back and forth between various possibilities and getting saved just in time only to realize it was a few days late. Like
I feel like he usually gets beat up.
Yeah.
He usually gets beat up. Some physical violence befalls him.
Yeah.
There's like suffering. Always like there's always people who like don't help him when he needs it.
Yeah.
Which goes to the suffering.
He gets screwed over. It's like someone tries to take advantage of him.
Yeah, someone's always gonna try to take advantage of him.
Yeah.
I feel like one day we should go through all the characters and figure out their patterns. Because it seems really apparent now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I just watched that. It was crazy, that one where he finally gets the wristband back, but then decides not to take it and to go out in the camp and
That was
sit in the
great.
stockade. It's like, what? After all that, you're not even gonna take your goddamn wristband?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And
what?
then did he do the same thing when? Oh, maybe that's the same scene. Yeah, I think that's the same. I was just thinking, yeah, when they were trying, they were finally able to go in, and he's like, "No, I'm not going." Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah, exactly. It was just like after all that, like he goes through this whole odyssey trying to get back in. You know, there's that whole actually that character from this episode. You know, he goes to her for money because he needs to pay this guy who like knows a
Mm-hmm.
secret way to sneak in. You know, spoiler alert: it's a drain pipe. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not genius.
Yeah, but where is the drain pipe? That's why it's worth money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. But yeah, so he goes to get the money. He has to like hit this guy with an oar, and you know he gets the money. It's not even enough, but he takes it anyway. It's weird, and you know then he goes in there, and it's like pouring down rain, and then he gets
Mm-hmm.
completely like washed away
Yeah.
through the thing. And then so then he goes back to the camp, you know, soaking wet, completely defeated. Then Nora shows up, like, "Hey Matt, come on in, no problem."
You
You
know, that's
know,
interesting because that's a second attempt at salvation.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
what does Matt do?
yeah. So at that point, he does go with her.
Mm-hmm.
He goes back in, and then they see a car wreck on the side of the road, and so they stop,
Mm-hmm.
and he realizes it was the guy who stole his wristband
Yeah.
and Mary's wristband and like his kid, and so he goes to like grab the wristband, and but the kid's still alive,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess, although he didn't actually say this, but I guess he decides that the kid can have his wristband or something. He gives the dead guy's wristband to Mary, and then he's like, "I'm just gonna go to the camp and
Mm-hmm.
like sit in the stockade thing, like free that guy and just sit up there naked for
Yeah.
however long. That's my thing now."
You know, Matt might be the most religious guy I've seen depicted on TV. And by that I mean his the way he operates is what I mean. The way he operates in his world. Because what we've just been describing really, and what I think he would categorize it is like a series of tests and him learning what the tests are trying to tell him, right? Because I think over that saga, he assumes the test is telling him he needs to suffer and he needs to prevent others from suffering, right? Like
Yeah.
he needs to have his turn shouldering the burden, right? And if so, and so the reason I say I feel like he's like religious in this context is that he's the story of Matt, it sounds like a biblical story. Like the things he goes through, all of these like trials and tribulations, and then he tries to learn from what happens and make a different choice, So
Yeah.
and I think that's why it's really interesting to see,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A
play
good
out.
example of that from season one is his whole episode in season one ends with the reveal that the guilty remnant took his church.
Yeah.
And it ends with with Matt and Patty like staring at each other in a face off, and like I remember thinking like, oh shit, it's on now. He's
Mm-hmm.
gonna what he tries to do next is save the people in the guilty remnant. Like he puts these posters up. He goes out there to like talk to them and say like, you can come to me, like I'll help you, I understand
Mm-hmm.
what you're going through, and so like he tries to like, he doesn't go to war with them. He tries
Yeah.
to help them in the way that he thinks they need help or whatever. Like that's how
Uh-huh.
he responds to their taking his church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just
Yeah,
like
he's got a
not
very
normal.
noble quality to um the way he sort of God, I'm trying to phrase this in a specific way because I think it's very specific on what he's doing, but it's the way he sort of, you know, carries that mantle, you know, of what, you know, and it's different than Locke. I mean, it's like Locke, right?
Yeah.
But it's different than Locke because he's not crying out to the heavens when things go wrong.
Right.
He like just goes and tries to figure it out head on.
Yeah.
And he doesn't doubt whatever path he thinks.
Right.
Even when like we talked about last podcast, even when something supernatural happens, he's got a self-assuredness from his religious point of view that cuts through, you know, that the idea that, you know, this was the Christian rapture or whatever. Well, it can't be that because bad people were taken. You know,
Right.
like that's a
Right,
crazy
right.
thing to say, I think. I'm sure there'd be a lot of Christians who would be totally fine to consider that the actual rapture, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a huge supernatural event. You're not getting another chance, right?
Yeah.
So I really admire that, and I think Christopher Eccleston does such a great job with the character, going through the like crazy roller coaster rides. But that's the thing that I really do admire is that he does try to, in real time, figure out what the signs are saying and like make big choices about that,
Yeah.
based on that.
Yeah. You're right. That's definitely the thing. And I hadn't really thought about it that way. Because I feel like he doesn't even. I don't know that he ever states on screen that it's a test or something. You know, but I think it's implicit by the way he reacts.
Yeah.
Because that's clearly how he was thinking of it, and like, yeah, that's why the correct thing was to go to the camp and sit in the stockade, like.
Exactly.
That's what the test was telling him.
Yeah, because it's like he's going through his whole day and he's like, this thing happens. Why am I suffering? This thing happens. Why am I suffering? And then he finally is like, oh, I'm supposed to suffer.
Yeah.
That's what. Okay, great.
Yeah. Just
then
accept that.
I'm supposed to spend some time suffering now. That's the lesson. And
Yeah.
and whether or not that is the lesson, right, it's subjective to him to know that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's his own point of view. So, but
Yeah.
then he has the wherewithal to be like, and I'm going to go suffer in this stockade and, you know, prevent someone else from suffering by doing that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of his whole speech about, you know, Nora goes to him and asks if Jarden is real, you know, which, like, you know, it's a great question. By real, I guess she means, like, really supernatural or something like that. Is there really something special about that place that's, you know, that leads to it not having anyone departed and so on, you know? And he's like, absolutely, because Mary woke up, you know, the first night we were here.
Yeah.
So I know 100% that this place is special, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not 100%. It's not an objective argument, you know. It's very much like a personal thing, and that's clearly how he sees things. If the signs say it to him, that's enough.
Yep.
He doesn't need it to be, you know.
He would have actually been great on Lost.
Yeah, I know. It's like
He would have
he's on the wrong show.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's kind of halfway between Locke and Echo. He's got the religious thing from Echo.
Yeah.
You're
right.
And he's got the sort of science questy thing of Locke.
I didn't make that connection. You're right.
God, it's like I'm picturing Locke and Echo in the hatch. You know, should we press the button or should we not press the button? And in walks Matt. You know, like, God, I want to see that scene. God, I want to see that scene.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy. Wow. Yeah, I can totally see him as a merging of the two characters.
And
it's even another example of you know.
Oh right. So Kevin is Jack and Desmond.
Yeah.
Are we gonna crack this whole show and realize what Damon Lindelof did? So that means Nora has to be Kate,
She's definitely
and
Kate and somebody else.
is it
Um,
Juliet or Nora? Let's see. Claire, she's got the baby stuff.
right.
Anna Lucia with the anger thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can't think. I can't get it.
Yeah.
Kate and
There's there's definitely Kate there, but I think that she's definitely not all Kate.
definitely not all Kate. No, for sure.
Um, like taking care of someone else's baby, and then like regretting it.
That's the most Kate thing you can do next to run.
That's exactly. And in a way, she kind of runs too. Like if you remember in season 1,
Mm-hmm.
at the end, before she found the baby, she was gonna run. That was her plan.
Oh, I think she's definitely got the avoidance thing that Kate has. I think that's definitely part of her Kate qualities.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, the raising someone else's baby. Yeah, that's great. That's just a recycled storyline.
Yeah. Her parents died in a fire. She didn't kill them, but
Oh wow, parents dead in the fire. Nice.
Tragic past.
Is there stepdad in the military? Has she seen a horse?
She has seen a horse.
She has seen a horse.
I can confirm that she's seen a horse.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. Nora saw a horse.
She referenced Kevin's horse in the first episode.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's right. And what else is Kate? Has she ever shown up someplace that she was told not to go, but she followed anyway and then got caught?
I don't think she's done that thing yet. At least not that I can remember. I don't remember anyone telling her, like, don't come here.
Mm-hmm.
It just hasn't come up yet. It was kind of fortunate, like, at the end of season 2, she's kind of off on her own. When Kevin's going off to do the crazy, so she doesn't even get the chance. He even calls her, and he's like, I think I have a way to get rid of Patty.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that right now, because if I tell you, then you'll really want to leave me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But hey, if I get rid of her, will you come back? Okay, good.
Yeah. It's not a very it's a quite dysfunctional relationship they have.
It is.
Yeah, in this episode when Nora walks in on Kevin and he tries to explain, and then she's like, "It's okay," and it's like it's the same thing she did when he was sleepwalking and she needed to handcuff him. She was like, "This is fine.
Yeah,
I'm okay with this."
Yeah.
And it's like, it's on the one hand like very respectable, and on the other hand like a symptom of her own issues.
Yeah, definitely.
That she's willing to easily put up with things like that.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's crazy. She's like, "Oh, you have weird behavior. Listen, I have weird behavior too. That's totally fine."
Yeah. Yeah,
which I think is why they work as a couple.
Definitely. But yeah, there's still issues, no question.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that by the end. Things get very weird towards the end.
So should we go through more of the episode? I feel like we went on a tangent.
Yeah, we kind of did. So let's see. I guess just like very broadly, the first part of the episode is about the Pillar Man, who I guess we see it right at the beginning kind of collapse. So we see it happen, but I guess not everyone saw what happened. So his wife, who turns out to be the woman from the camp that was that gave Matt the money that. I talked about earlier. Anyway, she claims he departed, and you know, Nora doesn't really believe it, and then she kind of investigates, and you know, she basically finds out that Matt was in on covering it up, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, um,
Oh man.
exactly. Uh, so yeah, so that, I mean, that's basically what happens in the first part of the episode. You know, you find out. You find out what happened, even though you already knew. It's a little weird. Like, I was kind of confused by that whole segment. Like, you see it happen at the beginning, but then you see her, like, kind of investigating.
Yeah, so I thought that was actually really surprising that they decided to disabuse us of the speculation about what actually happened by
Yeah.
giving us objective proof. I think 9 times out of 10, that's not what they do. They could have easily just let us be like the characters on the show and not know objectively what happened and spend the whole episode speculating about did he depart or didn't, repeat the Evie disappearance thing, right? Did he depart or did something else happen?
Right.
And that would have been fun.
Yeah.
And I'm really surprised they didn't let us do that. I'm really surprised that the first scene you don't even get a scene to speculate. The first
Right.
scene gives you the answer.
Right.
So I don't know. I thought that was really unique choice because this was this would have been a Lindelof shuffle,
Yeah, definitely.
but it wasn't because at the top is like nope. He had a heart attack and he fell off the thing.
Yeah. Maybe they just didn't want to do it again, since it would sort of end up being the same kind of thing.
But it's only for one episode, so I felt like
Yeah, that's true.
and it's different because you have, well, I guess in here they had people say, "Oh, I saw them depart,"
Mhm.
which I thought was just an example of how people's eyewitness testimony is never accurate,
Right.
Or not. That's not what's true. Uh,
Reliable, let's say.
It's not always reliable, not never accurate.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just ruined the criminal justice system.
You ruined
That
like
was-
everything, actually.
Yeah.
Because
Oh
you
right,
know,
I ruined science.
yeah.
I ruined art.
You ruined journalism. I mean,
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. I didn't know you could ruin so much with one statement. Wow.
Yeah. I think you ruined like knowledge itself.
Wait, let me go back for my joke.
Oh,
I didn't
sorry.
know you could ruin so much with just one statement. Who am I, Donald Trump?
Oh.
Wow. Look at that. Boom. Political comedy.
Ouch.
I had to set it up again, which hurt the timing, but
Sorry about that. I
you can
didn't know
edit
a
that
joke was
out.
coming. It wasn't in my script.
right. Read the script. Turn the page 8.
Oh, it's on. Wait, let me see.
It's double-sided.
It's on this page. Oh, okay, sorry. I was looking at page 5.
The fact that you have the paper prop ready for this Foley effect you're doing. Because the real bit is that we don't have paper, but you have paper to make it seem like we have a script, but we don't, and that's the real bit. It's layers.
Whoa.
It's the Inception
Ooh.
level jokes here.
Wow. Yeah, it's getting complicated. The
You're like,
fanboys are gonna love it.
Listen to my script. Paper. Sorry, what were you saying?
I don't know. I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
The pillar guy.
Oh yeah. I feel like this thing was, to me it felt like, what was that thing from the first episode? Who died in the first episode? I forgot already. Oh, I'm losing it.
Who died in the first
Dean.
episode?
Dean. It reminded me
Yeah.
of Dean because it felt like, and by the end they're leaving for Australia. It sort of felt like we're starting to like close the book on Jarden, And
Mhm.
so, let's kind of give a final thing for some of these Jarden people.
Are you saying they're gonna be Jardin?
Yes, I am.
Sorry, that was so stupid. I had to say it.
They're gonna be Jarden. All right, we're Jarden.
Whoever is the funniest person on that film set said it. Said that. I'm sure. They wouldn't have been able to let that pass them by. Hey guys, gather round. I just want to say we're Jardin with Jarden, and then he got fired.
And he never worked in that town again.
Damon's like, get the fuck out of here.
Oh man. But yeah, anyway,
Sorry, you're making a point.
Just like the thing that TV shows do at the end, they whatever running things they've had, they give them a final moment or some closure, and the Pillar Man wasn't like a big thing on the show, but he's been hanging around the background since season 2, since we first saw Jarden. So he sent a letter to the guy in Australia. So, he seemed to see Patty. Virgil confirmed that he came to see him. So, there was stuff going on with that character. They gave him a few details. And so it kind of felt to me like, it was an opportunity to do something with Nora's character, but also, basically get rid of this guy. So that we're not wondering. It's but what about the guy on the pillar? What's he up to?
Yeah.
What is he,
Why isn't Michael giving him food anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, is that still a thing?
Yeah, when they were like, oh, he was friends with Michael. I'm like, oh yeah, the food thing.
I forgot he even did that. He did that at the beginning of the season. Yeah. He does that all the time? Like,
Yeah, I don't think so.
much.
I think he did that once, and that was like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, did you finish your thought?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Pretty much. Like it's kind of functional. This plot line.
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking like, okay, like I just said, okay, why would they disabuse us of the shuffle? Like why not let us just wonder until they say it later? Well, maybe this is an example of kind of what not to do. Like, don't speculate like these characters are.
Right.
Because it can have a very simple real world answer. And so it's kind of maybe like a reminder of like the lesson we learned from the whole Evie disappearance. Right. And maybe in that context, it's maybe prepping us for another big shuffle. Another big supernatural question that might be posed, and we'll have to wonder, is it real?
Right.
Or is it Jarden?
Right. God. Yeah. I mean, they definitely did that. If you watch season 2, you can see that there are several hints that they didn't depart. If you know to look for them. I mean, the problem is when you're watching it the first time, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know to look for stuff like that. You're just kind of wrapped up in the mystery. And I think now that's a good point. And it very well could be that. It could be one of those things where you go back and you say, "Oh, that's what they were trying to tell us with that," and I didn't pick it up at the time. So yeah, that's a good point. That could be true.
Well, thank you. I'm done now. The rest of the podcast is all you. I made one good point. I'm done. That's more than my quota.
Because I was just thinking of it as kind of checking the box, But I think if it does more than that, then it's then that's a bit of a better justification for spending this much time on it. Because I think that was one thing I was thinking during this episode. At certain moments, I think this is a problem I mean, I guess it's a problem with any show ending, but it's especially a problem when a show ends with a very short season.
Yeah,
Every moment they spend, it's like
it's
you're,
huge. Yeah,
you're spending the end of the season on this.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Not just the end of this, yeah, not just the season, but the whole show. Yeah, so it's
the
double.
end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
like this is really like. Are you sure? Like it's just that's kind of how I was feeling about that. It's sort of like, okay, fine, I guess he deserves his moment, but is this really worth it? I don't know. You know, I maybe kind of wish they spent the time doing something else because I don't really care.
Well,
that
it's
much
also,
about the guy
I
in the
mean, but
pillar.
you also have to factor in the value they got out of how it affects the other characters. You know,
True.
so
That's
it's a good
huge
jumping
thing.
off point for Nora's whole thing and what she has to say about that whole idea of more people departing and I think it was in that podcast too with Damon where he mentioned what did he say about Nora? He was talking about how Nora feels about being having so many family members depart, and now I'm forgetting the context, but about her being jealous of other people who, maybe that was the Erica thing. Sorry guys, I'm misremembering this podcast. Maybe that's why she threw the rock, was because. Yeah, now I forget. Just go listen to the podcast.
Yeah, I definitely need to listen
Sorry,
to it.
I listened to it today and once, and I forgot. But anyway, there was a point on the podcast at some point where he talked about Nora being jealous of other people who get sympathy, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And you see that with this lady, with the idea of her husband departing.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Nora does something like quasi-violent to her about it.
Right. Yeah. Fuck that. You don't get that.
Mm-hmm. Which is an interesting thing. Yeah, but that fuck you comes from her grief. It's weird to. Well, it's not weird. It's human nature, but it's sorry. Reel that back in.
Maybe human nature is weird.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't mean weird as in it's obviously common. So can it be weird if it's common? I guess it can. I don't know.
Commonly weird. I don't know. Yeah,
commonly
you're right.
weird.
You're right. It shouldn't be. I'm just saying stuff. That's not a thing.
It's not a thing. All right, good.
No.
I'm gonna erase that. I wrote it down. I'm gonna erase it.
That's like perfectly imperfect or something. Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, but somehow you know what you mean.
I know. Well, there you go. That's why language sucks.
Yeah, or that's why it's great.
Oh, see, there you go.
It's both and.
It's a both and.
It's a both and. Yeah, don't forget the both ands.
Gotta have a both ands. All right. So, do you want to move on to the next thing?
Yeah, let's move on. Clearly.
So, yeah, we have a follow-up scene where they get his stuff from the pillar. And then
they pillage his pillar.
They pillage his pillar. Nice. That's with as many puns as we can fit in.
Some might call that pillarage. They would be weird if they did that, but some might.
But I think they should. It's a good one. Somebody's got to say it.
Someone should do that. What is pillage if not pillaging a pillar?
So then Nora gets her cast off, and we basically find out that she slammed her own arm in a car door, and we're left wondering why she would do that.
Nora, you crazy girl.
We might get more on that later. Yeah, it's like I should have. When they said that, I was like, I should have expected it was something weird like that.
Well, it's like her with the gun in season 1, shooting herself. It's just another version of this thing she's gotta, and that's why she's so sympathetic with Kevin.
Yeah,
is she's gotta feel pain for some reason, which I'm not quite sure. I'm still rewatching season 1. Maybe she'll explain it by the end. But
Oh, the bullet thing? Yeah, I don't know if
yeah.
that got a clear explanation. I mean, aside
Hmm.
from the sort of loose one of, the grief, but
Yeah.
yeah, in this case, the arm has a very concrete explanation, very straightforward explanation, let's say.
Yes. Yeah. The
Um,
tattoo, which
the tattoo.
I was really
Yeah,
confused by her explanation. That scene confused me because
it's a confusing
she's like,
explanation.
you want to know why? You want to know? You want to know I had? What did she say? You want to know how I broke my arm? And then she's like, I got a tattoo. I was like, what? Uh, and I'm like, wait, okay. Oh, so you got a tattoo, so you could have a cast, so no one would
Hmm.
see the tattoo. So you broke your arm to have an excuse for a cast, so you could cover up the tattoo. Was that what
Hmm.
it was? And then she keeps talking, and I'm like, oh, but you had a tattoo, but not this tattoo. You had another
A
tattoo,
different one, of
and then you
course.
covered up with that.
Yeah.
But then, why'd you break your arm? To cover up with the like. So what actually happened?
Well, we haven't gotten there yet. Do you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going in order.
I
Okay.
mean, we don't have to, but do you
Yeah.
want to skip to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Let's just talk about it.
Okay. So I think if I remember right, uh, and I'm just confirming with my recap here. Uh, so, uh, right. So she broke her arm. Okay, here's what happened. Are you ready? So the first thing she did was she got a tattoo with her kids' names,
Okay.
right? The kids who departed.
Yep.
The second thing she did was, I guess, like while she was getting it done,
Mm-hmm.
she decided like, no, that's a bad idea.
Oops.
Because then, like, people are gonna ask about the kids, and then I'm gonna have to think about the kids, and it's gonna make me sad, and it's horrible. It's a horrible idea.
Yeah, because I don't want to remember the kid. That's why I got it tattooed on my arm.
Right. I know. You know.
Because Memento was about a movie where a guy tattooed things he wanted to forget on his body, right? Is that how it works, Nora? No, Nora, that's not how it works. That's why you have a Wu-Tang band
She.
tattoo. A
so.
Wu-Tang
So
band.
she. So yeah, she pointed to the Wu Tang symbol to get that tattooed over it, and so then she had this Wu Tang tattoo, and that's when, but then like she she couldn't stand seeing
She's
the
like,
Wu Tang tattoo.
I can't go home with a Wu-Tang tattoo.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Oh, Nora, you're having a bad day.
So then she decided to break her arm to cover it.
Wow. Grief is real, y'all.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
No,
It's
that's
it's
craziness.
ridiculous.
It's craziness. And that all happened within like the space of like 30 minutes or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
She
yeah,
got
yeah,
she got two tattoos and broke her arm.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that she broke her arm. She was very efficient in her pain management. So, she broke her arm as she was in the hospital parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not before,
Right, right.
not at the tattoo place,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna do it right when I get there.
right where I need to be to get the help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that guy in the window's not looking at me.
Oh man, yeah, that's
Oh jeez. Yeah, what a
so
crazy
embarrassing.
so embarrassing. Oh man. Yeah, Nora, jeez. And this is good Nora, right? Like she's relatively well adjusted now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This
Compared to
episode,
season one, definitely.
yeah, this was her episode, so it was traumatic, but
Yeah,
generally it seems like she's kind of okay. But
definitely
yeah,
much
that's
more okay than before. But yeah,
mhm.
but that's still not that great in certain ways. I
So she's
mean,
gone up, but it's still lower than most people.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that saga is completely ridiculous. I mean, I keep saying ridiculous. I feel like I'm plugging the episode or something. It's like you said, Nora's a bit ridiculous in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, So do you want to go back now? Pick up where we left off
We got to go back
in time.
in time. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Where were we next? Right. So okay, so after she gets the cast off, um uh that's when she gets a call from Mark Lynn-Baker. Everyone remembers Larry from Perfect Strangers. Of course, if you watch the show, you know that he faked his own departure because the rest of the cast of Perfect Strangers departed, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He felt left out. So he fakes his own departure, and we found out about that in season 2, which should have been a clue, but it wasn't because it was too fucking weird. I still can't believe they did that.
Yep.
And now they do this.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. I thought they really covered themselves in terms of it just being something that seems weird and frivolous to write and to be Perfect Straight. That seems weird and kitschy or whatever.
Yeah.
But like when he said, 4 cast members, 3 disappear and 1 doesn't. I'm like, oh, he's just like Nora. He's in her exact same situation. And I was like, oh wow, that kind of covered them. I think in a way of like why this even makes it. It made more sense that these 2 would come in contact with each other because they had very similar same problem of the exact same number of people being departed, the same number of the same odds against
that probability thing. Yeah, totally.
Which I gotta say, that seems like a really low probability to me. I when they asked the question at first, I thought it would be higher. That'd be 1 in a million or something, really really high. Or I guess
1 in 128,000. Yeah. So I mean, I guess you have a 2% chance of departing. I was thinking about this after the episode to see if that number made sense. So right. If you have a 2% chance of departing, then I guess the odds that 3 given people would depart would be like 2 over 100 times 2 over 100 times 2 over 100. So I think 100 times 100 times 100 is let me get it right, is 100,000, something like that. So I think that's where you get that number from. Like I guess my point is the likelihood of departure was actually kind of high. It's 2%. I mean, that's a kind of a high number. So that's why it's kind of a high number for 3 people.
And I guess that's what's interesting is the percentage of people who departed is the same as the likelihood of being departed, right? Which doesn't necessarily have to be true.
Right.
So I think that's why I thought that number was low, was because I thought, well, yeah, 2% of the people got departed, but the odds of being departed somehow are really, really astronomical. Like I guess I thought you would factor in. Well, I guess you do you just take 2% of 7 billion or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that does make sense.
Oh wait, it's 1 million. It's 1 million. Hold on. All right, stop the presses.
Stop the presses.
All right, did they say 2% or 3%?
Yeah.
I guess
2%.
It matters. Okay, so if it's 2%, then it really should be. It really should be something more like 1 in. Oh no, not 2. Oh God, I'm about to solve this. Sorry. Hold on while I do math.
Holding.
Here we go. Just using calculator. Okay. So what's 1 million? Here's the question. What's 1 million divided by 8? 125,000. There it is. That
What
did
is
it.
what? What did you do? Can
That
you
did
explain
it.
to us what you did?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so
What did you discover?
so like I said, basically, the way you find the odds is it's 2% for each person, and then you multiply it by 3, assuming it's independent, that whether the people depart or not,
Mm-hmm.
which may not be true, but if you assume that, then you just do 2 over 100 times 2 over 100 times 2 over 100, so you get 8 over a million, which is equal to 1 over 125,000 if you do the fraction
Mm-hmm.
conversion there. So that's where the odds come from.
Okay. But I still feel like that doesn't necessarily have to be true, right? I mean, not that the math isn't true, but because I guess that's the odds that any 3 people would depart, right?
Yeah,
Because I guess my point is
including those 3.
including those 3. But I always got the I thought the subtext was that there was an increased probability in terms of proximity, right?
Right. So yeah, I would say it's the odds, assuming that's not true, right?
Right, and that's why I thought it would be so much higher, because I thought these people are special. Not that they just knew 3 people who disappeared, or you know what I mean, or related to 3 people who disappeared, but that they were in proximity to 3 people who disappeared, and one didn't. Whereas because we talked about this on the last podcast, I think about like population distribution and density, and like, is it some kind of randomness, and that if you had a group of 100 people packed in a small area, would more people get taken, or the same number of people,
right,
if you had them spread out over a large area, like that kind of thing. But so your math makes sense, because it explains that what they're talking about is just the raw, what they can assume is true.
Just thinking of every person, like, not thinking about where they are, but just putting everyone in the same group and just saying, like, well, this many people were taken, so the likelihood that you get taken is 1 in 50, and so,
Now, from there, you can do the math and figure out the odds for any one person, how many people they knew got taken. And that would be very high, right? Presumably.
Yeah. I mean, based on based on the number of people they knew, it would be a very small probability that they didn't know someone who got departed, which I guess is the Jordan thing.
Yeah, that's on that end of the spectrum. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Nora's on the other end of the spectrum, where she's someone who knows several people who got departed.
Because basically, if you know 50 people, one of them should have departed.
Mm-hmm.
On average.
Yeah, and then Nora would be way above that average.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope people came for math. I hope they were like, I'm in the mood for some leftovers related math.
I was really thinking about because they've said that probability multiple times on the show, and I was really thinking about if it actually makes sense with the 2% thing, and it does. The math works, so hey.
Hey, good on you, leftovers.
I give them credit. I thought I was gonna end up being wrong, but no.
No, that's what Lost is for.
Ouch.
We all saw that rocket experiment. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, we've transitioned to the scene where she goes to see him in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And at that point he reveals to her that how shall I put this? He reveals to her that some scientists built a machine. This is starting to sound ridiculous. Again, ridiculous.
Why? Don't be.
Departure machine, let's say. Like, basically, they studied the places where the departures happened, and somehow determined that certain kinds of radiation were found there. Not that any of this really matters, but basically they figured out a way to kind of simulate those conditions by blasting radiation at people. And so I guess the idea is that they're selling the ability to get a technologically aided departure. You know, you pay them, and then they'll zap you.
You mean the tap?
The tap, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, you can't sell it if it doesn't have a catchy name.
Yeah. So basically that's the pitch. You should do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because your whole family departed. Don't you want to know what happened to them, and so on? You know, it reminds me a little bit of that movie, The Vanishing.
Hmm.
You know, like the idea, like you should go through what they went through. You know, like you should
recreate it to get to where they're
recreate their and then it's gonna be really disappointing if you just die.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's it. Like they all just kind of died and disappeared somehow. That's it.
Is that the ending of the movie? Well, don't be ridiculous. Okay, so this pitch is interesting. I'm kind of looking at the scene again. Yeah, I found this super interesting. You know, it reminds me of those scenes in Lost where it gets really sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it's great. Remember Metalos and all that stuff.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And we're gonna cure this, whatever. And
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember in the scene, why do they want her to go? Or why do they think she wants to go?
Because of her family.
But I mean, why her? Are they? They're not charging her for this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
She has to pay.
Oh, did they say it cost?
Yeah. Well, at the end, when she gets a call, they say bring $20,000 to.
Oh,
to
that's
Australia.
right. That's sorry. So it wasn't in this scene, but it was later.
It was later. Yeah.
I just couldn't. I couldn't remember off the top of my head. Like,
I don't think it's supposed to be free.
yeah, I thought it was like. Oh, I'm confusing myself of what I thought in the scene at the beginning. I thought it was like, oh, they're going to her because she lost so many people, and this thing will work better because she's got more. I went crazy with it. I was in like 3 seconds. I was like, oh,
Right.
it's her because you know she's a lens. No, not she's a lens, but you
Yeah.
know she's
Right,
got
right.
this strong will and connection to the event, and the odds are be better if it's her. You know,
Right.
because this thing might not work or whatever.
Right.
But that is not what happened in the scene, so I'm gonna forget that.
Okay. I gotcha. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's a weird scene. It definitely gave me the same vibe as the stuff from season 2 with the scientists. Just the idea, introducing the idea, which is very logical, of like trying to study the departure from a
Mm-hmm.
more rational scientific perspective. But of course, in this case, they've gone rogue, you know, because they were, you know, they wanted to experiment on humans.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely an interesting idea, and he ends up giving her the these like messages that they recorded, I guess, before they went through the procedure to, I guess, to verify that they agreed to do it, they weren't forced
Mhm.
into doing it, and so on. They were healthy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so like Nora watches those, and like it's like the whole thing's a little weird because, like, you know, imagine a product where after you use it.
By the way, everything you're about to say is exactly what I want to say right now about that. I'm just gonna let you say exactly what I want to say.
Yeah, so you can add, I mean, you might have some extra thing. But basically, like, imagine a product where if you use it, you disappear. You know,
Mhm. Got it.
who is gonna be a spokesperson for that product? You know, because
Casper the Friendly Ghost.
it's like, I mean, Marklin Baker is selling it, but it's like you haven't fucking used it. You don't actually know what happens. You know what I mean? And he gives these testimonials, and they're like, "I agree to do this. Great. I'm glad you agree to do this. I want to hear what happened after you do it, not what you said before. It doesn't fucking matter what you said before."
I found that scene completely baffling. Those tapes did not prove the entire point of their existence.
They proved
the whole
nothing.
point, they proved nothing. All it proved was they had customers. It didn't prove that the product worked. It did,
I believe people would want to use it, but
I was watching the scene going, did the people go there and come back and they recorded the testimony? I don't understand how, because that's the only way it can be valid is if they have some sort of proof or knowledge that the product worked. But yeah, it was weird just to get, here's a bunch of, because all he basically said is, listen, I got a con. I'm trying to con you. Yeah. Here's a bunch of other people I conned. I recorded the con, and I recorded them saying they agree for me to con them. Here's that, you know, and it's like that doesn't prove anything. Yeah, I thought it was really weird.
Yeah, and like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of, you know, in season 2, eventually she's like, okay, what's happening? And they're like, well, you've been possessed by the demon Azrael, and, you know, he needed to find a human vessel. And she's like, oh, right. And then hangs up on them, you know, because it's like, oh, it's that, you know, because I was expecting something like that to happen, you know, that it would be like, oh, this is just complete bullshit, you know? Yeah. It didn't quite go that far, but there was no proof that it worked either. Cause like, I don't think they can prove that it worked. Like, I don't think they have a way. That I was trying to think about it. You know, I was thinking about Stranger Things. I was thinking about like tying a rope to somebody. You know, like, maybe.
Are you talking about Stargate?
maybe if you tie a rope, does that happen in Stargate?
Yeah.
You tie a rope and then you throw them into the departure world and then like pull them back. And see if they know, you know, or you give them a tracking device,
like a cell phone, GPS. See if they have. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, exactly. Give them a walkie-talkie. Give them something, you know, that they can like that you can track them.
The first thing they do in every sci-fi movie or TV show is they send a robot through it. Come on,
send a robot.
And you see if you get any video feed, and most of the time you do for no apparent reason. And then you can see what's on the other side. Guys, I want to be confident in this, and I'm not, only because I think it'd be cool if they did it. But I don't think they're going to do this, which is my point, and is to have the other world be there for real, you know? Right. Yeah, these people who are getting zapped, I thought it was really strange, his whole pitch. Like, it started out, like, normal and, like, measured, and he talked about the science.
Yeah.
But then when he was, I thought it was, you know, but then the way he described the scientist and what they were doing, I thought it was weird because they just concluded that if we zap someone with the same level of this radiation, it'll do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's
like, do you know? I mean,
they're
the ones who know how many factors are involved in that whole situation. I mean, atmospheric pressure, the bacteria, anything in the room, any molecules in the room, like everything, the position of the sun.
The radiation might just be a side effect. I mean, there's no reason why it has to be the thing that causes it.
Yep, and there's no reason there's nothing that says zapping people with radiation is what, and that's what I thought was weird too, is they didn't find the source of the event. They found this remnant of the event, perhaps a guilty remnant. A radiation. Are you guilty, radiation? No, sorry. As radiation is standing in the corner, smoking, wearing white, smoking. Right.
Your pain doesn't matter.
Writes that on a notepad. But yeah, so I thought that whole thing was weird. That they just made the leap from, hey, it works.
Yeah.
When it's like, yeah, guys, I think there's way more science to do here.
Yeah.
Before you start telling people you can send them to this place, without even knowing if it's a place worth going to. That was the other thing I thought was strange
Right.
and left out of the pitch, because I thought he was going to say people came back and like, this is a secret thing and we're, but like Nora's special, so we haven't sent a lot of people through, but like, you know what I mean? So it's not like a widespread secret that's out there, but like Contact or something, where they're building the alien machine thing, but then they have like a separate secret one,
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought that whole thing was weird. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point I was trying to make with like the movie thing, like that there's no reason to assume that the place where the departure people went is a great place to go to.
Yep, it could be
Nobody
literal
knows.
hell. It could be literal hell.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for all they know, and it's like, and the hotel. Don't open the hotel. I think, and I'll confirm when I get there. I believe that no one in the hotel actually departed. I think all the people in the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
died.
That's what we talked about at the time. Yeah.
So it's they're not going to the hotel.
They're not going
at the
there.
very least, even if it exists, that's not the place where they went. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's the whole thing is so flimsy. It's like it's ridiculous. I'm really not trying to like.
Are you saying this far-fetched scheme from Mark Lynn Baker is from Perfect Strangers fame is not quite passing the mustard?
I am, and I'm not. I feel like I'm artificially using the episode title too much, but like it really is. Like it's absurd. I need another word there, but like yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. The way it's even pitched, the context there is already.
That's funny. We
silly.
were just saying about that whole thing with the Pillar Man being an example of maybe what not to do, and the title is telling us don't be ridiculous. Did we say that before? Don't be ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
like as them just telling the audience to not think ridiculously.
Oh. Yeah, that's interesting.
And the first scene is showing us why we shouldn't think ridiculously, because
right.
don't be ridiculous. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you ready to go to the next thing?
Yep.
Okay. So I just want to point out like one running thing in this episode. It's not just here, but a couple of times Nora is unable to use touchscreens, and then she has trouble with the ticket machine.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Like I don't want to be ridiculous, but like. Is that going somewhere? Was that just business to give her like more stuff to get frustrated about?
Honestly, I think it's yes. I think it's that. I think it's her version of Matt's saga, when Matt has this like quest he's going on and he has all these like obstacles in his way. I think that was her version of that. Of just basically random things that happen that annoy people and how it can affect whatever else they're going through,
Right.
And I think, it was opportunities to show her character. The whole thing when the flight attendant or the airline employee was like, hey, just press, with kids, who cares? Doesn't matter. Who cares about these things? No one
if
checks
it's
these things.
1C, yeah.
Yeah, and Nora's like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think it was. I don't think it really says anything. Like, again, I don't think she's a lens, unless.
Yeah, like I started
We're
wondering
gonna bring
if,
that
if,
back.
Like, she's having some weird like she's phasing out, or I don't know.
It'd be weird. It'd be pretty late, right, to like have this start happening. I think that would seem pretty late, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would precipitate this change in her behavior with technology this one day?
Right,
unless
right.
it was like, oh, if I mean, there's things they could kind of say that might could make a connection, but I don't really see it. I think it was kind of a one-off thing. Well, you know,
Okay.
next episode, you know, if they have a problem when she gets to the airport next episode, going to
Right.
Australia, you know.
Yeah.
But I doubt
Then
it.
I'll
I think
get
it was
suspicious.
just Nora versus technology this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what was weird for me is how consistent those problems were. But I mean, that could just be a writing thing. It seems likely that you're right, that it's just that. But I think we'll know if they put another scene about it in the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
If that's something we're actually supposed to pay attention to, or if it's just part of her struggle.
I like that you were thinking she was phasing out of reality. That's something that I would think of. So good job.
I don't want to be ridiculous, but like I was trying to understand why the touchscreen wouldn't acknowledge. Although I guess it didn't work for the woman at the airport either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't be ridiculous.
So it's sort of like, well, then it's not just Nora. If she was able to do it, then it would seem different.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
and in that moment, you
I
think
guess
that's what's gonna happen, right? Like
I did.
when she goes to use it, you think, oh, it's gonna work, and it's like, no, it doesn't work because this is just what happens sometimes,
Don't
guys.
be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous. Yep.
Okay.
And then what were
I'm
the other
convinced
things?
now.
What was the other? There was
there was the GPS in the car.
Okay,
and then, which was also a touchscreen. No one to confirm that the touchscreen didn't work for them too. But again, don't be ridiculous. And then the last thing was the ticket machine at the parking garage thing. Like it wouldn't take her ticket, which is, I mean, that's just too weird. That can't possibly have a real world explanation.
No, that never happens in real life. The odds of a ticket machine. The odds of a ticket machine not taking a ticket? 1 in 128,000.
Yeah, okay. Like, the more I think about it, the more it's like, okay, that can't be a big thing. There's no way.
No.
There's just no way. But it did hit me at the time, but that's my fault. That's on me.
Now, it's funny when you go, right? It's on you, exactly. It's because of what you did, okay? Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a lesson with Lost, right? Like, because Nora could decide to place meaning on these encounters with technology, and she could say, oh, I don't know, I'm cursed.
Right. Right.
And then go around and feel like she's cursed because technology is acting weird today.
Nora cursed, if you will.
Oh, Jesus. You just won 100 points.
I have to take like a lot of the points away because that's actually in the episode, but
oh, that's right. But
it seemed like the right time.
Yeah, no, I forgot. Yeah, that's great. Nora cursed. Cursed. It is sitting right there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next thing is.
By the way, caveat is. For us recording this podcast is this time we were trying to record very soon after the episode aired, so we've only seen it once. That's why we can't remember half of the thing that's happened because we only watched it once, like yesterday.
Yeah. But hey, it's current.
Mm-hmm.
That's the upside.
It's
current, but we remember nothing.
What it lacks in our memorization of the episode, it makes up for. You fill in the rest.
In its what's the word? Urgency.
Urgency, yes.
It's very urgent.
Very urgent.
That is not the word I wanted, but anyway, I can't.
That wasn't the word I wanted either.
Yeah. I want a word for like. What's a word for like? Really important right now. Seemed like urgent was the one. Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know. Let me think. I can think of one word that starts with the letter U. What's the word for urgent? When something's like really urgent. How do you say that?
What are your top 10 synonyms for urgent?
Oh God, great.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Please write us.
Lostletter@gmail.com.
No, actually, this is Mr. Podcast.
Oh, yeah, right.
Why don't you email us at claudeandjustin@gmail.com.
There you go. ClaudeandJustin@gmail.com. That's more appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah. Or email us at thelostlowdown@gmail.com if you have some Lost Lowdown
Oh yeah. There you go.
synonyms.
Perfect. Pressing. Pressing.
Pressing. Yep.
That's a synonym. Anyway.
Yep.
Okay. That's that's good. That's good. Good enough, right? All right. Are you ready for the next thing?
Oh yeah, I'm already ready.
You've been ready, right? So in the next scene, we go to Kentucky. What could we possibly be doing in Kentucky? It turns out that I guess that's where the baby ended up, who's not baby anymore.
No.
She's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 or something like that. And
Probably more like 3 or 4.
okay, 3 or 4. I'm not good with ages. Hey, I did say 4.
Well, 3 years since we've seen her, plus she was like 1 maybe.
Oh, you're doing the math.
I'm doing the math.
Okay,
Sorry.
I get
Yeah. Ugh, says the guy who did math for 15
I
minutes
was
on
just-
the podcast. My, how quickly you've changed.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we find out that I guess she has been taken back by her true biological mother, Christine, from season 1, who I guess had the baby with Wayne, and he's since sent her on the run with Tommy, or maybe he's just Tom now. I don't know. Is he too old for Tommy? I
think it's
I'm a little. I still call him Tommy because I just remember Tommy from the cell phone thing. But yeah, maybe he's beyond that. I don't know. Like I never really notice his name. I just know that's his name, so I don't really say anyway. We all know what I'm talking about.
This is riveting. Continue. Any synonyms for Tommy you enjoy?
It feels weird to say Tom. It just seems so formal or something. Anyway, so yeah, basically we find out that, well, I guess that's in the next scene where we find out some of the details about what happens, because like she comes over and she's like, Nora, what are you doing here? And then Nora kind of just leaves.
I love that she throws the toy out the door. Oh, I thought it was like, oh, now it's gonna be awkward. You got to walk back over there and give it back to them.
Yeah.
Nope, she just throws it.
You know what that reminded me of?
And they're looking at her, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they saw her walk away weirdly and get in her car and slam the door, and then they're gonna see her open the door and throw her toy out.
Yeah.
Oh,
that reminded me of this thing from season 1 with the baby Jesus. Do you remember the whole thing about the baby Jesus was stolen?
Yes.
And who stole the baby Jesus?
Uh-huh.
And like, spoiler alert, Jill stole the baby Jesus.
Yeah.
But then, eventually, like, he figures
This
out
sounds
what
like a
happened.
Bible study song. Is that a Bible study song?
Yes.
About stealing baby Jesus?
It should be.
Am I making that up? I feel like, who stole baby Jesus from the maid? It sounds like a... Oh, man, it sounds like a song. Who did? Jill did. Who did? Sorry, continue.
So, like, Kevin figures out that Jill did it, and so then he threatens the twins. If you remember the twins from season 1.
I remember that.
He threatens them that they should get the thing back, and so they drop it off on his porch, and then like he takes it to this town hall meeting, and he's like, and by the way,
Great.
I recovered the baby Jesus, and they
Nobody
all look
cares.
at him like, who
Crickets.
cares?
Well, it's even better because the mayor put him up to it. The mayor's like, "Oh, come on,
Yeah.
Kevin! Oh, come up here, Kevin! I'll show everybody what you got, Kevin.
Yep,
And here's
yep.
your big win, Kevin."
I know.
Yeah, I just rewatched that episode recently, so that's
It's
fresh in my
great.
mind.
It's
And
great.
people are like, "The baby Jesus was missing."
Yeah, that was the thing. Okay.
Wait, from which church of the probably many we have here,
That's a good
and
point.
the many manger scene? You know what I mean? It just seems
Yeah. It's not even that uncommon. Yeah. So then, like, as he's driving home, you see him throw the baby Jesus out the window.
yeah.
After all that,
After
it's
all
like
that.
an episode that starts with the baby Jesus and it ends almost with the recovery of the baby Jesus and victory. It's going to be a triumphant moment, and then he just throws it up the window.
Yeah, because Matt's like, oh, I had a baby lying around.
Yep.
And it wasn't even the same. It didn't matter that it was
Nah,
the same.
it didn't
Like
matter.
it wasn't like and he wasn't like, oh, I went to the store and bought one. It was just
No.
like, nope, just got one. I thought that was actually some interesting ideas floating around with that whole baby Jesus thing, because they spent that whole intro with the production of it, and I thought, reading too much into it as I'm prone to do. I thought it was an interesting idea thinking about like this whole factory making this identical product, but then one version of effectively Infinite gets all this meaning placed on it,
Right.
and I thought that connected to some other kind of themes in the episode.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, the baby thing.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, basically, it's really in the next scene where we find out some of the vague details about what happened. I guess she kind of sued for custody or something. If you've seen Lost, there's a very similar plot in Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely similar. And that's how
It's
I
the same.
guessed that it would be this.
It's the same. Don't ask me about them. Like it's a sore subject, so
Yep.
don't talk about it. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it's and the one who has the baby is the family. The biological related.
Because the audience and the character can rest easy. The baby's in the most
Exactly.
perfect place, and but it's still traumatic for the character we care about.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, so that made it
And
like, kind
and
of,
the best benefit is the baby's off the show.
right. Yeah, because like they didn't want to be lugging a baby around, this whole time, or like having to say like, oh, you take care of the baby, while we go do, they got to go to Australia. It's just, yeah, I feel like it was in a way it's frustrating because season 1 ended with the baby and it made it seem like, maybe the baby would have some larger significance. On the other hand, what significance can a baby really have? I mean, what am I expecting to happen?
I just think that's the best sentence I've heard in a long time. What significance can a baby really have? Oh man.
I mean, if you look at any show, which really is a lot of them, with a prophecy baby storyline, I think
they're all in the Prophecy Baby Storyline Network.
You
the PBSN.
They should do that. Actually, it would be a lot of good shows. I'm just gonna say it.
PBSN is highly rated.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch that, but not for the prophecy babies, because like every prophecy baby plot ends with disappointment for various like practical reasons. I think I mean, if you have something like The Omen or whatever, if you have a story that can really like cut forward in time,
yeah,
then you can kind of fulfill the destiny of a baby. But on a normal TV show, like, you got actors, you got main characters, you got people that, the audience wants to see. You're not going to be able to show...
Don't be putting that baby all up in it. Get that baby off the screen. There's people the audience want to see over here.
That's not exactly what I meant, but
Is
yes.
it not what you meant? Did I misinterpret? Okay,
Not exactly.
sorry.
I really just meant like... for the baby to get old enough to be interesting, the characters we know would have to...
This podcast is going to get an anti-baby rating, and it's going to be justified, unfortunately. We're not anti-baby, but Justin just has these statements. I don't know. A little biased, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what's there to be a fan of? No offense. I mean,
Babies. What's there to be a fan of? Please, someone put that on a t-shirt. I swear to God. I swear to God, I'm putting that on a t-shirt.
I mean, they're dead weight on screen. You know, they're worse actors than dogs. And
Also, t-shirt number 2. Babies. Worse.
seriously, the dog gave a way better performance. By the way, do you remember where the dog is? I actually forgot what happened to the dog.
I don't remember what happened with the dog.
I think something happens at the end of season
Didn't
2.
they move?
Dog's not around. No, the dog came with them because the dog was in quarantine in Jordan.
Oh, that's right.
But I don't remember what happened at the end with the dog. I forgot. So, but it's not there anymore. So I'm like wondering what the thing. But I guess
Maybe
whatever.
it got released during the destruction of the town.
Yeah, that would be logical.
Because didn't he get shot? Yeah, he was there with the dog. That's
he was
right.
there with the dog, yeah.
He was there with the dog, and then he got shot.
Of course, just like Lost.
So did he come home with the dog?
I feel like he didn't come home with the dog.
You're right.
Maybe the dog
just
ran
like
off.
Lost.
Yeah.
Jesus, just like Lost.
Yeah, the dog's there when he's dying, quote
So
unquote.
should we assume the end of Leftovers, we'll see a shot of Kevin's eye, maybe?
I wouldn't be surprised. Although, maybe they would just do it not to do the same thing, but, it's a compelling shot. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, like, I feel like, babies, Dexter, it was a problem, Battlestar Galactica, Lost, I mean, name a show that doesn't have a baby. I mean, it's hard. There's not that many shows that don't have babies. And, on a family drama or whatever, 6 Feet Under, it's fine. It provides a catalyst for a lot of conflict and drama. And that works. And, it does that on mystery shows too. But, like, as a character, and whenever they want to put weight, like, plot-based, like, stuff on a baby, it just always falls flat. Alias had it too. I mean, it's I just, it's one of those irresistible ideas for some reason that never works.
Yeah.
And I think people should just give up trying to sell that plot. Because it's always a letdown.
Oh, Prophecy, baby.
X-Files? I mean, there's no show. There's no show, I swear. If it's a mystery, like sci-fi-ish or whatever type show, like they usually put a Prophecy baby in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's usually a Prophecy baby.
That's a big thing, which is just, it's amazing to me how big of a thing it is when it's always a disappointment. I mean, always a disappointment. It's like, what? Anyway, so yeah, I would say at this point we are done with the baby. We're not going to hear any more about that baby, except Nora might reference her or something, but it's not going to be. Now that we know what happened, we can all just kind of move on. We don't have to, Episode 2, they got to that. I guess that shows how important the baby was. No offense.
And I think that was the thing you called in the last podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just going by Lost rules. If they follow the pattern from Lost, it'll be this, and it works because
if Damon makes enough shows and we watch enough of his shows, we'll be able to watch his shows and decode everything on a level that we will enjoy none of it. It'll be great. It's going to be so good.
I know.
We won't be baffled by anything.
No. We'll know exactly what every scene's doing and why.
It'll be the best and the worst.
We've definitely gotten closer to that over the course of doing The Last Lowdown, and then watching The Leftovers. Like you see a lot of the same devices, but that's kind of an author's voice, and it's really those things that. It's really those things that make me sure that it's Damon Lindelof, because they're things that are so clear in things that he works on. It's in Prometheus too. I mean, he can't get away from that stuff, and so it's like I'm sure that other people contribute things to the show, but like certain aspects are just so strongly his thing.
Yeah.
that they can't be anything else. Anyway, so you ready?
Okay,
for
so we got the baby. I think there was something else I was going to say about the
Oh,
baby.
sure.
Christine. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay. So in the next scene, we go to visit Erica.
Erica in the house.
So yeah, that's the first time we've seen her this season, which I guess isn't that crazy. It's episode 2, but she kind of hangs out with Nora. They have a little heart to heart. They talk about the custody thing with the baby. They talk about the broken arm and the tattoo and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, like, the key thing for me from this scene about Erica is, she's like, Evie died and I got to bury her,
Mm-hmm.
so that gave me this closure that you don't have, and that's why, like, I'm okay, more or less.
Yeah. I just had a child die. That's
Yeah.
people have been having children die since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
What happened to you is a different ball of wax.
It's bad, but yeah, like, I'm gonna survive. You're a mess.
There's books written about how to deal with what I'm going through. Yeah.
Exactly. So it just and it also seems like that's why she's not on the show anymore. Like, it's almost like that thing from Lost. I mean, she didn't die, but it's like, once you deal with your problems, you're off the show.
She got to move on. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, I guess I kind of get that, which makes me think that it's possible John still has problems.
I think it's clear John still has
if
problems.
He's still on the show. Yeah. Okay. I guess maybe it's clear. But yeah, that's sort of a consequence of that. So then they to I guess as a catharsis or a bit of fun or whatever, they go jump on the trampoline.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get a trampoline montage, which
how do you say that in French?
Montage.
How do you say trampoline montage?
Beau montage. Trampoline. Wow. I don't think I ever learned the word for trampoline. That's interesting. Let me find it out. I'd like to know. It'd be. I almost expect it to just be like the literal thing, but
yeah,
like trampoline. But because it looks like, it comes from Spanish. That makes it seem more likely. Let's see. Yeah, that's what it is. Trampoline. Wow.
Nice.
So wait, what was I supposed to say? A montage
Trampoline
trampoline.
montage.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Something like that.
I don't know why I wanted that in French, but
they put
I got
it afterwards. You wouldn't put the adjective first.
Mm-hmm. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
It's a that thing this, not a this thing that.
Exactly. So this trampoline montage was one of those moments in the episode where I was like, really? I mean, it's fine, but you're spending time on this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how? Like, it wasn't like it went on forever, but I was thinking, like, couldn't this minute have been used for something else? Like, it was so I don't know, like, frivolous. Like, there was no content. Like, the point of their scene was when they were talking,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like, huh? I mean, and it doesn't even really help. It's clear when she gets back that, like, it's not like she's all better now because she jumped on the trampoline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know. That's a weird moment for me.
Well, but it could have contributed to decisions she makes later. It's these kind of things hard to tell. But I hear what you're saying. It could be a send-off for Erica. Maybe she really won't be back or won't be a while.
Right.
I thought it was.
She's on some other show. I saw that in the review.
Yeah, she's on American Crime. I think she's still on that.
Yeah.
But I like the trampoline scene, only just not in the terms of like what it added to the show, but I just thought it was shot very cool.
Yeah.
The lighting
Sure.
and stuff was cool.
Sure.
You know, I've seen my fair share of trampoline montages, as anyone has watching movies and TV.
Yeah, they come up a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's photogenic, definitely.
Yeah. Anything else on this? I'm trying to think. Like what you're saying about Erica, she's free from all of that crap now. I couldn't tell though. So is she still in Jarden? Is she close by, or was she where Nora was when Nora was out of town?
So, like, I did see a review say she was in Jarden, but I'm pretty sure she wasn't in Jarden just because after she leaves, we see Nora drive across the bridge. And that's where she runs into Tom.
Okay.
And so, like, if she wasn't across the bridge already, she couldn't have been in Jarden.
Well, it depends on which way she's crossing the bridge.
Well, she's clearly going in because she goes to her house.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Well, maybe she reverses in a scene we didn't see. I mean, come on, don't be ridiculous.
Okay. You're right. I can't prove it. No, so
Yeah.
I saw some reviews say she was in Austin, though I don't know why they thought that.
Yeah, I had a feeling she was in Austin too, and then I couldn't remember why I thought that. Yeah.
So, but I think she's not.
Oh, maybe because the airport is the Austin airport.
Yeah,
and then she stopped there, and then she has to drive from there,
Yeah.
maybe something like that.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure. I don't know exactly where, but I'm pretty sure she's living not in Jarden, but I guess somewhere in Texas.
Yeah.
And it would be logical if it's by the airport where she landed.
Yeah.
If we saw what that was, then yeah, that's a good clue. That's probably. I mean, presumably that came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're ready for the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she goes back to Jarden. She's going across the bridge, and Tom, the elder, I mean he's the younger one, but he's elder now, elder than he used to be.
More elder, please.
Can you not just say elder? Isn't that what that means? Anyway, elderer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. English is ridiculous sometimes. Why is it an E? So
Why is what an E?
an elder? You know, why isn't it just older? It should just be older. He's an older.
Because probably Middle English shit with like eldest, you know,
yeah. But they're
and
clearly related, right?
Well, elder, an elder is someone who's older. Come on, Justin.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Right? Why can't it just be one thing? You know what I mean? Like, why is there two
Because there's-
words that mean
because
the same
there's-
thing and come
because
from the
there's-
same place?
There's two things.
There should just be one word. Clean it up.
Because you can be older without being an elder. That's why.
But okay.
It sounds like a riddle.
It does.
When is one older but not an elder? When he's a tomato.
There you go. Of course.
All right.
Oh, man.
Are we going to
that
next
reminds
thing?
me, the Dark Tower movie's coming out this summer.
Is it a movie?
That'll be interesting. Yeah, it's a movie. What do you mean? Is it a
Okay.
movie? Yeah, it's a movie. What kind of question
I
is
keep
that?
thinking it's a TV show.
Oh yeah, right. At some stage, it was going to be a TV show, but that's
Okay.
like that era is over. It's
Yeah.
going to be a movie. I guess it's going to be a movie series now. I think that's the plan.
Ah, okay.
Like depending on how successful the first movie is, like
Mhm.
they'll make more or they won't.
So
But yeah,
it'll be the Dark Tower, the Darker Tower, the Darkest Tower.
exactly. Exactly.
There's your trilogy.
Except
You know-
another word that means dark and has a different letter at the beginning.
And what word would that be?
I don't know. It's like
Not
foot dark
dim.
or something.
For dark. Yeah. That's ridiculous. So don't be that.
Oh, right. Don't be ridiculous. Thank you.
Speaking of ridiculous and speaking of dark, you know that movie 50 Shades of Grey, since we're on a tangent
Oh,
here?
yeah. Who doesn't?
The
Hashtag
sequel was...
not my Christian.
Oh, wow. The sequel was titled 50 Shades Darker.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so. Now you're...
I
Are you
thought it
telling
was
me?
called something else. 50 Shades Darker?
Yeah, I think it's called 50 Shades
Oh,
Darker.
yeah, it seems like you're right. Yeah,
So,
it is 50 Shades
so
Darker.
I'm like, I saw that on a billboard. I'm like, okay, first of all, this sounds like false advertisement. Because first you told me there were 50 Shades of Grey. Okay? Now, if there's 50 shades that are darker, we're dealing with a total of 100 Shades of Grey here. So you're telling me that this crazy movie where this lady was put through all this crazy bondage stuff, she was only getting 50% of the gray. You know? She wasn't that crazy. She could have been getting 100 Shades of Grey the first time. And she wasn't. So I think they copped out and they didn't give us what we should have gotten.
Wow, you've really broken this story wide open here.
I know. I needed some place to share it far and wide with the world. So I decided this podcast was where to do it.
I think this might be the biggest story of, I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
April 2017. I mean...
Yeah, I'm just saying, like it. No one
Tuesday?
was talking about it. I know. I'm like what, a year late from complaining about this.
Oh,
but,
did it come out a year ago?
I think it came out a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
No, maybe it came out this year. It says 2017.
It seemed
yeah.
like it came out recently when I looked it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if the next movie is titled like 50 even more darker shades or something weird, like it's
Right.
just gonna be, you know, they're just
More darker shade.
50 even more darker shades.
Oh man.
And then the fourth one's like 50 extra more shades darker than that. And then the last one's just like, here's some shades. They may or may not be dark. Give us a fucking break. Who thought there'd be 4 of these movies?
We
I
didn't
know that.
count them.
I know this is a long title, but who cares? You shouldn't have put me in charge of titles.
Oh man.
So back to the leftovers.
Right. So Tom pulls over Nora and I guess confronts her about the Christine like intrusion, and they have a little conversation, I guess.
A tete-a-tete?
I was gonna say that, but then I was like, no, not a tete-a-tete.
I thought you were going to say that, yeah.
There's no tete-a-tete.
Tete-a-tete.
Because if I say that, yeah, then I'm gonna say tete-a-tete, and it's, you know.
Then we will be where we are right now.
It's gonna go downhill from there, which it did. See, I wanted to avoid all this.
Because of what I did, yeah.
It's because of what you did.
Yeah, it's true.
So anyway, they have a shit. I trapped myself.
What do they have?
I trapped myself again. They have a tete-a-tete where they discuss the baby, and you know, I guess we find out that So it doesn't even matter. We find out that, so Nora says, "I wish you never left the baby for me," and he's like, "I didn't leave her for you. I didn't even know you existed."
The blow of the century. Boom! Mic drops. Door slam. That was so great. It totally just like rearranges my whole perspective I have of Nora. It was like, yeah, Nora, why did you take up the mantle of raising the baby? Why did you think that was the thing you were supposed to do?
Yeah.
This whole time it's been like, oh, my sacrifice of raising this baby and being taken away from me. And he's like, that wasn't even my plan. Girl, I didn't even know you were a person.
Right.
Like, that was such a... It wasn't just like, oh, I wasn't meant for you. It was like, I didn't even know you existed.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and it's. I mean, that's totally true. I mean, in a way, it's even worse than that. Like, she was gonna leave.
Yeah.
If he hadn't, if by coincidence he hadn't left the baby at that moment, she would have just left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like she wasn't even hanging around to see the baby that would have shown up. You know.
Yeah.
You know, with Kevin under normal circumstances. So it's just, yeah, no, it was. It's a great thing to. It's a great thing to point out, and pretty harsh, but you know, true.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's she gets a little dose of reality, I guess. But I guess she didn't like it none too much.
Why do you say that? Did something happen in the next scene?
Oh, sorry. One thing I have to bring up before we move on to the next scene. I'm still wanting. It's it's that thing we talked about on Lost. Like the characters get together and have a beer or something and talk about their adventures. You know, because like the connection's a little deeper than that. Because I don't know if she knows that it's Wayne's baby. You know, the guy she went to see in New York. You know, and the guy that Kevin saw dying in the bathroom, who said his wish would be granted, the guy who Tom himself was following, and that's why he had the baby in the first place. Like, yeah. I mean, do they realize that connection? Like, it's not clear that they do, but it's a crazy one.
Mm-hmm. It's like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but it's Wayne.
And same thing about the lore. It is. Same thing about the Lori and Tom story from season 2. He basically tries to become. It's a very short-lived plot, but he tries to become a Wayne type figure. Yeah. And Lori even sees him watching a Wayne video from the early days, like on YouTube. But it's not clear if she ever questions him about that. Did you know this guy? Why were you watching the video? Does that have anything to do with the baby you dropped off? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They did a whole Wayne routine, and I don't even know if they talked about Wayne, really.
Well, a more minor thing related to that is the idea that, they're doing this good-hearted con with the handprints. Tom could have easily said, hey, this guy Wayne was doing a thing that helped people by hugging them. Right. So that seems to maybe go with that idea that he didn't say they don't know.
Yeah. And it's just strange. I mean, I guess I just would kind of like them to know they have this connection. Mm-hmm. It's just a little weird, like they because they're all together at this point in the same place. They've been together for 3 years, right? Because they all sort of reunited at the end of season 2. Yeah. And it's been 3 years, and they've been together for 3 years, and they never came up. No. I'm just surprised. That's all. It's just crazy to me.
Maybe they'll address that. Maybe they'll address that before the season's up.
I think it's very possible that Wayne comes up again in some form. Maybe not in a major way, but I feel like they maybe could try to give some
Wayne in Australia
statement about Wayne. Yeah. Or they go back to Wayne in the hotel because he was in the hotel before. Something.
Didn't he get shot in the hotel?
He did get shot in the hotel. But, Patty got shot in the hotel and she came back. He had to push her down the well. Well, yeah.
She was the nemesis, but your point stands.
It's a crazy place. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to think of ways he might come back.
You're saying the hotel's a crazy place?
Hotel's a crazy place.
All right.
I'm standing by it.
You're very into copyrighted Hotel California territory.
It's not that similar. I mean, different. Yeah, there you go.
The opposite of what I said.
Yeah, that's better. Oh man.
So this, I guess you're about to you're gonna depict it here, but you're gonna read about it. You're gonna describe it is the word I meant to say.
The final scene.
Yeah, this next little part. But I want to talk about
Oh.
Nora's motivation to ruin this lady's life.
Oh, not that part. Right. The next
yeah,
thing. The next thing
yeah,
where
yeah,
she
yeah.
goes to Kinko's and she blows up a picture of the dead Pillar Man and then she puts it over this portrait of him where he's supposedly like ascending or something, just to like say fuck you to all the people who, you know, I guess want to believe that he departed or something in this peaceful way. And so she puts that up and storms off in triumph, I guess. So yeah,
Yep.
that was her next move. Before she went home, she had to
Ruin some people's nights.
ruin some people's nights. Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing that I don't hate Nora, you know, because she really can be so horrible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, but I
guess you understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is understanding from the context of that's her, coping mechanism. That's how she's coping in unhealthy ways, and she lashes out. Because in this goes back to the details I was butchering about what Damon was saying on the podcast about Evie's disappearance and Nora at Thor in the Rock and all that stuff. But this seems to go with that, where when she is made to believe that, this, because like this scene where she's basically told the baby, and it goes to what you were saying about she was ready to leave, right? So it was kind of a sign to her, I think, to stay, and she had another chance at a child. So like when she's disabused of these things that she thought were important, she looks for other people who have those kinds of things, and like she destroys it.
Right.
And so she looked around and she was like, who's happy? That lady. That lady who thinks her husband departed.
Right.
I'm gonna go and make sure she knows that there is no happiness in this life, because that's my experience.
Right.
It's very. Luckily, she does it rarely enough to where you don't hate her. But yeah, I agree. Like, she does really rev it up in these situations.
Yeah, she could be really harsh, like in a way that like main characters that are supposed to be likable usually don't go that far.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you're right. You follow her journey. You basically sympathize with her, even if you think maybe she goes too far sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like maybe she earned it.
Yeah.
Ruining a few people's days.
She couldn't press the buttons on the computer. Give her a break.
Yeah, exactly.
This is how hard her life is. No, just kidding.
Okay, yeah, so finally, she's had quite an adventure. She goes home, and it's a great thing to come home to. She comes home, and Kevin's doing his plastic bag over the head routine that we saw in the last episode. So that's definitely what she wanted to see.
Yep. She was like, now I can come home and relax.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. Oh.
By the way, can I just say that Justin Theroux with this beard makes him look like Mel Gibson? Have you noticed that?
No, I hadn't thought that, but I think I can see it.
It's not in every shot, every angle, but particularly that when he's on the bed, like has his head turned talking to Nora when he takes the bag off. I'm
my god.
You look like Mel Gibson.
He looks so ridiculous with that bag around his neck, like.
Yeah.
It just seemed kind of laughable, even though like the situation is like kind of disturbing. So anyway, like he says he doesn't really explain it. So I guess the explanation is something we'll have to wait for. He just says I tear it off every time and I don't want to die.
And the little extra thing he says, I believe he says like he wants to feel ... Right? Doesn't he? Isn't he say something about
right? Okay.
It's about he wants to feel a certain way. So I thought that was important to notice that he's not trying to go to the hotel as we thought necessarily.
Right.
Yeah. So sorry, you were talking. You're describing.
Right. So, but yeah, but we don't get like a complete answer
Yeah.
about why he's doing it. But anyway, she's like, Nora's like, whoa, man. She's like totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh man, that's no problem. You know what?
Yeah.
We'll be fine. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Well, as long as you tear it off every time, we're no problem.
Yeah, we're good here. So then, so then Kevin suggests that they should have a baby.
It's
And
great.
she does a giant wall
Uh huh.
in his face.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, in terms of like going back and forth here, Prophecy Baby. Every show does a Prophecy Baby or a baby at least.
Uh huh.
Here's something no show ever does. Let's have a baby.
Laugh. Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. I've seen that. Maybe not in dramas. Yeah, maybe not in dramas. I'm not sure. It's pretty rare. Yeah, let's have a baby, and it's just like completely ridiculous idea
Yeah.
where the person is like super serious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
it was laughable in the context. I mean, that's
It
the whole
was.
thing. Like he has this huge problem, and he barely is able to even explain it. And he's like, now that I'm thinking clearly, let's have a baby.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
wait, what?
Yeah, like that really seems like a horrible idea.
And it's like, did you miss her scenes where she just gave up a baby?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, it was like the worst thing he could have said. Like at that point.
It was totally ridiculous. And I was thinking like, oh God, are they gonna go down that road? When he first said it, like, are they gonna go down the road of, you know, she's gonna have a baby to replace, you know,
Yeah.
the baby she lost, and then it's gonna be like kind of another prophecy baby because it's Kevin's baby, and the wheels are turning, and then she starts cackling.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh okay, I guess we're not gonna do that one.
No, we only have 8 episodes. No prophecy, baby.
I mean, we even saw old her, you know, and I guess it doesn't rule out the possibility that, like, off screen she has a baby or something.
Yeah.
But it seems clear that, like, a baby plot is not going to be a major thing this season. Because, like, yeah, it's a bad idea for a number of reasons. So then she gets, a call from the, you know, the crazy scientists.
From the TAP program.
From the TAP program, who say she can come to Australia, to Melbourne, and with $20,000, and you know, I guess, you know, get in on things. She has to say yes or no. So she says, yeah, I'll do it. Of course, Kevin, because, you know, hey.
It's
my
like,
life here
listen,
is a
like,
fucking mess.
it's crazy. It was like all the craziness that happened to her the whole day. She walks in on this craziness with Kevin. Then he says, I want to have a baby.
Yeah.
And then she gets this phone call.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Nora. Like, she makes these gut decisions the same way she'll be like, oh, that miraculous thing? Nope, that didn't happen. And you're wrong if you think it did. And then she'll later think about it and maybe change her mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, when she's like in these like stressed out states, she just goes with the flow. And she's like, oh, this crazy thing? Sure. And then like, yeah.
Let's do
and she's
it.
like,
Zap
she's
me.
like, I gotta go to Australia like right now. And he's
Yeah.
like, okay, can I come too? Aren't you police chief?
Yeah.
Don't you have a job to do, Kevin? Jeez.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. I'll like, you know.
Tom will cover.
I'll promote. I'll promote Sheriff Tom. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody can do something, you know. So yeah, I guess she agrees to let Kevin come, which is a bit weird. It makes me think like, you know, something's gonna happen with the. I mean, if she went by herself, it would mean something different. I think for the what was it called again? The DAP? The
TAP?
The TAP. Yeah, for the TAP plot. Like, I think if she went by herself, I would expect something different. But since Kevin's going with her, you know, that makes me think that the story's going to take a turn. Like, they're not going to completely pursue that direction. And it'll somehow lead towards this crazy stuff we're seeing in these flash forwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm expecting. Because if they're going to be in Australia, I mean, there's just no way they go to Australia and then they leave Australia and then they go back to Australia. I just can't see that happening.
Not 2 Australia trips, no.
Yeah, so just it
They
seems
don't have
like
the frequent flyer miles for that.
this is like the beginning of the final thing. I mean, that's what it
Yeah.
looks like to me. So
Yeah, I thought it was interesting she asked him to come because I thought she would want it to be a secret why she's going.
yeah,
Because it's she's basically saying I'm potentially going to go die at this place.
yeah,
I wasn't going to tell you, but since you're coming, I'll tell you. But like, he's not going to let her do it, right? And maybe he does
Right.
it himself.
But
Maybe he's
she
like,
didn't- she
I'll
didn't tell him
go.
though, right? I mean, she didn't.
Well, but she's going to. So you think she's going to go to Australia and then say, "Hey, I need to go run an errand."
It's gonna be hard
And,
to pull
like,
off. I
leave
agree.
him somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just thought I don't know.
You
Maybe
think she will tell him at some point? That's what you're saying.
yeah. I
I'm
think
just making
it's
sure
just,
she didn't actually tell him in that.
she
scene.
didn't tell him in the scene. No. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the fact that he's going to me says
Yeah,
he's gonna
you're
find
right.
out.
I
He's gonna
agree.
find out.
I agree. That's logical. 'Cause,
Well, then
yeah,
stop arguing with
otherwise-
me.
oth-
No, I'm sorry.
Otherwise, it's gonna be ridiculous. Otherwise, yeah, she's gonna have to sneak off, and then it's like, why did you even have Kevin come if you're just gonna sneak off and get zapped? Like,
Yeah.
it almost seems like she's bringing him along to tell him and then have him talk her out of it.
Yeah, or Kevin's gonna go, or
Kevin will go. They'll
something.
both go, or
Yeah. Or I mean, he's got to reconnect with his dad down there anyway.
Yep. Yeah, that's clearly gonna happen. So yeah, there's a whole range of, and Nora's gonna be living there delivering birds in like 20 years. So
Yeah.
there's clearly a future for her there.
It looked like 40 years, man.
40 years, okay. I mean, I don't, old age makeup is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how to judge. She wanted to make her older, so it's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so you're thinking she's like 70.
Yeah, it is 60, 70. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was thinking more like 50 or something, but it doesn't. I mean, whatever. It's that kind of time frame.
Well, by the decay of the clothing, I think she was about no.
So yeah, since we talked about this last thing first, I guess that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, we're back to where we started.
Back to where we started.
Cool. Well, yeah, I enjoyed the episode. Nora's rewatching season 1, I'm surprised how important she's become, because when you first meet her, you don't think she's gonna be that big of a deal on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
And
She
then
kind of
is.
sneaks in there.
Uh-huh.
I felt the same way about Matt. Like, they both have these very quick one-off scenes in the pilot.
Mhm.
And based on those, I mean, I wouldn't guess that they would be more important than, like, the mayor or something.
Yeah, where's
like-
the mayor? I mean, obviously they're not in town anymore, but
I'm kind of expecting something with the mayor. I feel like they'll tie up that loose end the way they did with Dean, but I don't know how. It doesn't really make any sense.
maybe
based
the
on where
mayor
plot's
is
going.
with Kevin Sr. in Australia.
Actually, there is precedent for that. That actually makes sense. If they're gonna put the mayor in, that's how they'll do it.
Yep.
Yep, that's a good call. Shit, forgot about that connection.
Don't forget about it.
Damn it.
That May-December romance. And by that I mean they started dating in May and they ended it in December.
Right,
Um,
of course.
I was just telling you the starting and end months of their romance.
Yeah, that's a normal thing people do.
It's a normal thing to do.
That's how they.
I
talk
wasn't
about
alluding
things.
to any other type of connection between the two.
Yeah. What else would it be? That didn't make any sense.
Well, cool. Yeah, good episode. Super excited about the next one. I think, I mean, if they're in Australia in the next one, obviously they only have 8 episodes this season, but so they're moving pretty fast. They have to move fast.
They do. There's
I feel like
only 6 left.
what's sort of cool is I feel like what they've set up so far, which isn't much, lends itself to being fairly different than what we've seen before. It seems like we're going to be going into some brand new territory.
Yeah,
Which
definitely.
is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which I mean, based on season two, like I'm not surprised they're branching off because it was a huge departure, if you will. Um,
Well, I won't.
from
And how
season
dare you,
one,
sir?
and that was something I really liked a lot about season two. Like it felt like a new show in a way that still connected with the old one in ways that made sense. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what sort of craziness they have in store because it definitely seems like whatever's going on in Australia, whether it's supernatural or not, it's weird as fuck.
I feel like that's their tagline for the whole show. The leftovers, whether it's supernatural or not, it's weird as fuck.
I stand by that. I mean,
Yeah.
because yeah, you don't. I mean, the drowning Kevin posse is just not a thing that you see
The
on a normal
DKP.
show. Yeah, the DKP. Exactly.
We're the drowning Kevin posse. We only do one thing to one person.
It's a limited.
You've heard of limited liability company.
Yeah.
Well, we're an LLP. We're a limited liability posse.
Posse.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know why
man.
they're so comical. It's such a weird. Why are they on horse? Maybe someone from Australia can write us at Claude and Justin. At gmail.com
Yeah.
and tell us if from an Australian point of view is does it make sense that they'd be on
Is
horses? I
four
mean,
middle-aged women riding on horses
yeah,
a thing that you're
four
used
middle
to?
four middle-aged cowgirl women.
Cowgirl women, right?
Because they
There
weren't
we
just
go.
like riding horses; they were cowgirls, basically. They were cow
Definitely.
women.
Yeah, there you go, cow women. It sounds bad, but
It sounds
why
bad.
should it?
Yeah, yeah. I would have respected when I call them girls.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
I mean,
But I guess
hello,
it's not
PC.
cowman.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, it's fair. Cowmen,
In that case,
cowboys.
it's a little more, yeah. Because in most cases, when you say girl, it's not something where you would say boy
Yeah,
for a grown man. But
yeah,
in that case, you actually do say boy.
yeah, yeah. Which is weird now that I think about
It
it.
is weird. It is weird.
Maybe when cowboys were becoming a thing, maybe what a cowman was back then was already taken.
I love this theorizing. This
Maybe
is great.
cowman was already a thing. It was a man who sold cows,
You can't be a
or
cowman. That's the cowman over there. What are
the
you, boy?
yeah, exactly. Oh, he's a cowboy, clearly. Yeah, well, I don't know.
I'm a cowboy.
But I'm over 18. Listen, if you got a problem, take it up with the cowman over there.
God, ridiculous.
keep squeezing those teats, cowman.
That's not something you want to hear. Ever. For any reason.
Sorry, just imagine while they were discussing the etymology of these words, the cowman's just in the corner squeezing for milk.
Squeezing those teeth. I mean, why not say that? That's what a cowman does, but
The
I'm
cowman
just
has no
saying.
shame. He doesn't mind.
He squeezes teeth professionally.
Listen.
It's
Is what his
fine.
daddy done did. Is what his daddy done did. It's a whole line of cowmen in his
Cowman.
family. Why his family name is the Cowmans? Where do you think he came from?
Of course.
All right. Um. DKP. That's where we
Don't
left
be
off.
ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous. Well, luckily that's not the title of this podcast, because we would have failed. So, all right. Well, I think that's it for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say it was definitely an interesting episode. It has some moments that I thought were kind of questionable, but overall it was definitely enjoyable and interesting and kind of strange and very much the leftovers. So, I can't complain about that. But I'm definitely extremely excited to see the next thing and where this is all going, because I definitely don't know. It's really hard to tell.
yeah, same here, man. Can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time, we'll catch you later.
All right. See you later.
Sometimes the world looks perfect, nothing to rearrange. Sometimes you just get a feeling like you need some kind of change. No matter what odds are this time, nothing's gonna stand in my way. This flame in my heart, like a long lost friend, gives every dark street a light at the end. Standing tall on the wings of my dream, rise and fall on the wings of my dream. The rain and thunder, the wind and haze, I'm bound for better days. It's my life, my dream, and nothing's gonna stop me